Welcome everybody to another BD Boxing podcast, broadcasting to you live from the True North. It's a good friend, Mr. BDA, and I'm glad everybody could be on board for this one. Nice little cozy December edition for everybody out there. That's right, we're in the middle of it now, I believe. December, winding the year down, and what a year it was. Was it as good as 2021? I don't know. But we certainly got something here coming up on Saturday that might just save the day and put a nice little cherry on top. What I consider to be the last great day of boxing before the year's end. There's other adjacent fights later on in Japan. I think there's one Showtime card featuring undefeated fighters, but other than that, this is really it. So we're going to talk about some of the fantastic fights we got going on Saturday. Before we get down to the fun, you guys know the drill. Let's get the business out of the way. If you want to donate a couple of shekels our way with the super chat feature, you're certainly welcome to do so. But it's always more important if you join the BD membership program. That way you get more bang for your buck. But the most important thing beyond that is that you continue to like, subscribe, spread that BDA gospel. All right, fellas, I can't stress that enough. There's a lot of uninitiated out there, a lot of unwashed people, and they need to be corrected. All right? And don't forget, you can check us out on iTunes, Spreaker, and Spotify at your leisure. All right, let's give a big shout out to everybody in the chat. I'm talking about Cal L, Iceman, James Thornton, Grim Reaper, Michael Poe. Shout out to Michael. Oh, he donated the super chat as well. He says, "Oh, smack Christmas again." There you go, Michael. Hope you enjoy the Christmas scenery we got up here. Getting into the spirits. Shout out to Michael Poe. Always appreciate his support. Shout out to Knockout Ned LT. Good to see him back. Hope he joins the fray again. Got Michael Sykes, Never Sober. SSC in the house as well. Shout out to SSC, a little jazzing. A little jazz, why not? Always good for the soul. Epairokua, Team Badman Boxing. Lore Blue MBM, shout out to him. Fluffy Toasters, Epairokua, Sam Rando, Senpai Leo. What the fuck is with people changing their names? Shout out to you fellas. Thank you for joining us. Many more people to come, I'm sure, fellas. All right. Let me invite a couple of people over here. Start cooking with some oil, some hot grease. Because we do certainly have, like I said, a lot to talk about. On top of the big fights that we've got this Saturday, we've got some interesting developments outside the ring as well. Drama. It is confirmed that Tank Davis has left Al Heyman and Floyd Mayweather. Good news. Unfortunately, he's still with the PBC, so who knows what's that going to do for his career. Nevertheless, it's better than nothing. Let's just put it that way. Why the fuck are these calls not going through? Hold on a second. Give me 2 seconds here, fellas. No. This ain't working out here. Oh, here we go. I got the Guns and I got the Jim Marino on board. Guys, can you hear me? Fellas, can you hear me? Well, I'm pretty sure they can. We'll just wait for them to... What the fuck is going on here? They all dropped out. All right, hold on a second. Give me 2 seconds here. I'm going to get through this here. Oh, I get what's going on. Okay, Gonzalez, stay right there. I think you can hear me. Stay right there. I'm going to add more people here. I don't know why they didn't add themselves earlier. Hold on a second. Yeah, leave some comments. By the way, give me some people in the chat while I'm calling these guys. Give me some predictions for the... We're going to start off with the Luis Alberto Lopez, Josh Warrington fight. That's going to be a banger for sure. For sure, I think so. I'm going to put my foot down and say that it is going to be a fantastic fight. So I want to hear some predictions there from people right off the gosh darn bat. All right, I got the Guns and Jim Marino. Guys, can you hear me? Jim Marino.
Yes, sir.
All right, fantastic. I don't know what was going on there with the connection. I got Gonzalo too. And listen, fellas. Let's get right down to brass tacks, as they say. We got a fantastic fight between... let's start with the one on Saturday from England. And that is Josh Warrington taking on Luis Alberto Lopez for Warrington's IBF featherweight title. I didn't know he had one. What, did he win that one against Martinez? I think that was it. Now...
Yeah, I believe so.
For people that have never seen Luis Alberto Lopez... He reminds me a lot of Fernando Montiel. Or even a guy that fought a couple of last Saturday, Martinez, the guy that lost to Chocolatito earlier this year. They don't jab their way in. They're not inside fighters. They like to stand in the center of the ring, and they like to rush guys with feints and leading with left hooks or sometimes even uppercuts, and that's what they do. Just rinse and repeat. Luis Alberto Lopez is a bona fide puncher. He's very explosive, very quick. Warrington, on the other hand, if you've never seen him fight, he's got quick hands, but nowhere near the punching power that Luis Alberto Lopez brings to the table. Nevertheless, he's the more seasoned fighter. He's been in there with Carl Frampton. He's beaten Kiko Martinez twice, I believe. What was in the name of that slick guy that fought a little bit like Junior Witter? Was it Kaliafai or Kid Galahad that he beat?
Kid Galahad.
It was Kid Galahad, yeah. So he's much more seasoned. Alberto Lopez El Venado Lopez has never been in there with a guy like him, but this could be his coming out party. Who wants to start giving us their thoughts on that fight?
Yeah, hey, BDA, he's on the warpath for sure. I mean, the kid's 27 years old. Man, he punches hard for sure, and he can take a punch as well. And add the fact that he's aggressive, he's going to come chase you down. Not necessarily in combinations, like you mentioned, although he does have some inside game and a heavy jab as well. He got a heavy jab, and I think he knocked out Jason Vargas to the body with the left hook. And he'll chase you down, like I was mentioning, not necessarily in combinations, like 1-2 or 1-2-3. It'll be like one after another. Basically, if you're relocating the ring, he's going to chase you down and find you with the punch. If you move somewhere else, he's going to chase you down. He's going to track you down and punch again. So he's going to do that. He's just going to keep on punching with ones and ones and ones. So, I mean, the dude's going to break this dude down, in my opinion. I mean, Warrington, what he got, a 24% KO ratio? Yeah, he's a scrappy dude. Probably faced better opposition. Maybe a lot of local fighters down in England. This Warrington guy's 32. He took a good game. Yeah, he's a veteran. But the way I saw it when he faced Mauricio Lara, he basically quit. And this guy is kind of similar to Mauricio Lara. Everything that he throws is heavy, man. So I'm kind of fanboying for El Venado Lopez because I have him as one of my favorite fighters. And the contender, as I perceive to be a contender, that's probably going to become a future champion. And I think he's gonna become a champion on Saturday or Sunday.
That's interesting right there, man. So you're making your pick right off the bat. You're picking Alberto Lopez.
Yeah, I'm not a betting man, but I would pretty much... Man, I would go on a limb and say this guy knocks him out in 10 rounds. The corner throws in the towel.
Interesting. Very interesting. Shout out to Super Anderson Al in the chat. He makes a good observation. He says, Josh Warrington looks like an extra in a war movie. He certainly does. He looks like one of those guys that bites off a chunk of a Budweiser can. This guy looks like a hooligan. That's for sure. And he fights like one. Listen, Warrington is one of my favorite fighters to watch because he comes forward, punches in bunches, gets up close, which is starting to become a lost art, really, inside fighting. And I really do enjoy seeing him fight, and I do enjoy seeing El Venado Lopez fight. I like his unorthodox style. I like the power punching and the body punching. You know me, I'm a sucker for body punches. So I'm looking forward to this one. Jimmy or whoever else wants to go on, anything to add about this one?
Yeah, I just on this, it's like I don't really have a dog in the fight. I'm not. I like Warrington, but after hearing Gonzalez talk about the kid Lopez, I went and checked on him. He's a tough kid. This is should be a good scrap. It really should be. You know, Warrington, like you said, he has that come forward style. That kid Lopez, he does throw some shots at weird angles, and he can hurt you. So. Yeah, I don't have a prediction as of yet. You know what I mean? I'll probably have to look at it a little bit more, but I'm looking forward to it, which is a good sign anyway.
Well, I'll tell you why I'm looking... Oh, go ahead, Gonzalo, yeah.
I'm just going to mention BDA, and I mentioned it last time, but I'm just going to go ahead and repeat it because boxing is about repetition. Just to put it fresh into people's minds. Well, this is basically my observation, but I'm pretty sure you guys will agree. El Venado Lopez, he's unorthodox. He could be considered like a wild swinging puncher. Mm-hmm. But when you got excellent timing and you're landing those unorthodox swings, those wild punches when they're connecting, hey, you have excellent timing and you're completing the purpose of the method to your madness, to your style. As long as the punches connects, hey, and guess what? We had Daniel Zaragoza. He was a Mexican Olympian. He was a great boxer, and he was a wild swinging dude, but he had no power. But his punches connected because he had great timing. Now you couple that, just as an example, a wild swinging dude that can connect and got excellent timing. You put that in more of like, for example, like a person like Chino Maidana, who was also wild swinging. He got timing on the punches, but he also had power. I'm basically describing El Venado Lopez. He can connect you with wild swinging shots, and he got power behind those shots. And let me just mention something let me just take it one step further. If you get in a shootout with that guy, because he did it with Lara, he got fucking hurt, and he wanted to get in a shootout with Lara. If you do that to El Venado Lopez, hey, can you fight that fight? Can you keep it together, or he's gonna draw you in into fighting the way he wants you to fight him? Basically, a war of egos. He's gonna lose that.
Or would you say a war of attrition as well?
Yeah, and then one thing I'm afraid that maybe Warrington starts to lead with his head. I was watching some of his highlights, not just with the Lara fight, but there was another fight. He kind of squares up, and he likes to throw a volley of punches from right to left, from left to right, but he kind of squares up, but at the same time, he pokes his head out like he wants to bump you with his head to create space. I don't know if he does that intentionally, but for certain he did that with Lara. He did it on purpose. And one of those things, if him and they get into that war of attrition, that could be one outcome that could certainly happen as well. Headbutts.
I agree. That's definitely something to watch out for. I want to give a big shout out to Jonathan Lambarena for his contribution with the Super Chat. He says, I've been saying this for years now. For years. Luis Alberto Lopez will be the new IBF champion. He hits like a Mack truck. Viva Mexico. Well, shout out to you, Jonathan Lambarena. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, too, I think not saying that that's what Gonzalo, he's just using a term everybody does. They do label guys like that wild. He's a wild puncher. It almost takes away from his abilities. It's more like even Madonna. People used to try to say he was just wild. It wasn't that he was wild. He was unorthodox. He just did things differently. He found punches that worked. And like Gonzalo's point, if they connect and the timing's right, I don't give a fuck how you deliver it. If you deliver it with power and what it does with so I just think a lot of people didn't know how to he's the wild puncher because they're not doing everything the orthodox, the pretty style of 1-2, throwing combinations like who's a great combination puncher? The kid who staggered Haney. He throws some of the prettiest combinations. If you would use somebody to show a child the body weight and just the fluidity of his punches. Oh my God, I'm having a brain freeze. But you know who I'm talking about, the guy who shook him,
Linares.
Okay,
Linares. Yeah, he's beautiful combination puncher. And then when he was in his prime, just was lacking power. And the chin has always betrayed him. But yeah, throws combos like butter. But yeah, it's because
he
guys
certainly knows what he's doing.
They label him wild.
He certainly knows what he's doing. He certainly knows what he's doing in there when he picks his shots. You can tell there's a method, or there's an intent behind what he does. First of all, the feints, a lost art, or it's becoming a lost art, and he feints a lot. He knows what he's doing. Like, watch the first round of that Isaac Lowe fight. The way he came in and made Isaac lower his hands, trying to parry a body shot, which is a big no-no, and he left him wide open for a left hook. Now, and he sets up some beautiful body shots too. Classic left hook, right uppercut upstairs, and then boom, he'll dig downstairs. But now here's the thing, though. Tell you why this is such an interesting fight. Because George Warrington recently said in an article here in Boxing Scene that he says, "Hey, keep downing me." And indeed, he seems, I don't know, he seems pissed off to me, or at least he's got an edge to him coming into this fight, because he says that after the Mauricio Lara fight, he's being underrated. He was dropped big time in the ratings after that loss. And then the rematch was obviously highly inconclusive because it ended as a no contest. And even then, people still felt that he created that situation with the headbutts to get out of the fight, and that if the fight would have continued, he would have been blasted out again. Now, here's the interesting thing he said. He said, people say that Lara, because Lara called him out not that long ago after Lara just recently won one of his fights. Warrington said, people say that he's my boogeyman. I do agree that Lara is his boogeyman. It's just stylistically, Lara is all wrong for Warrington. But be that as it may, he's not fighting Lara, he's fighting Luis Alberto Lopez. And here's what he said, Warrington, speaking about that, he says, Alberto Lopez is full of confidence. He's showing the champ no respect whatsoever. We know he's got power. We know he knows how to finish people. He strongly believes that he's going to do what his Mexican friend Lara did and come over here and blast me out. I've got other ideas. So first of all, just because they're Mexicans, Josh, doesn't mean that Lara and Luis Alberto Lopez are friends necessarily. I don't know. Maybe they do know each other. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. But then he said this. He says, I feel the strongest I've ever done in my career. I'm sitting down my punches a lot more. The power has always been there. I've never really focused on bringing it in, but now I am like, fuck the early nights. I'm coming here. It won't go 12. I'm highly focused. I want to get the job done and close the show early. Now, listen, a lot of people say that I'm going for the knockout. This is my best training camp. You'll never hear a boxer tell you, I'm injured. I'm coming in here at 50%. I just got over a cold. I just got over a fight with my girlfriend. No, you never hear that. But I do believe Warrington is going to come in here looking to make something happen because he's got a guy that is more or less a wide open target, or at least looks that way. And he's coming in with confidence after knocking out Kiko Martinez, or stopping him rather. So I'm telling you, fellas, I think we're in for a treat this Saturday with this fight. And it's in England, 5 p.m. Eastern time here.
Yeah, in regards to them being friends, they're from different parts of the republic, of the Mexican Republic. One guy is from Mexicali. It's like basically being in California. And the other guy's from the capital of Mexico, which is thousands of miles away. So yeah, it sounds a little bit like he's throwing shots at El Venado Lopez. The style is similar, in my opinion. I mean, the dude's cagey. He comes forward, and I think that'll play into Venado's hands. Venado will take some punches, but basically that's what he's wanting. If we're not looking at the outcome of a round as far as like the scorecards, which if it starts going rounds, being that it's in England, they might favor Josh Warrington's activity. But if this guy decides to squabble, to like exchange punches with Venado Lopez, yeah, like I said, Venado's going to take a few licks, but that'll give him the perfect space for he himself can put his shots together and land on Warrington. And if Warrington starts going backwards, there's no more perfect of a time to punch a guy as he's going backwards when he's kind of like he's not set to punch. And if he's not doing it on his terms because the other guy's chasing you down with aggression and is landing heavy shots and you don't got your legs under you, there's no more perfect time for you to throw with power because the guy can't really connect you back. But I'm basically saying that he's not going to get on the back foot like he's controlling the distance. If he decides to get away, it's because Venado Lopez is chasing him down.
You know what? But Gazelle, let me ask you this though, because everything you're saying makes sense. I'm just curious. Alberto Lopez El Venado has never really fought anybody on Warrington's level. Warrington has been in there. He forced himself on Carl Frampton. He forced the pace. Frampton could keep up, got outworked. He beat Lee Selby as well. He got through a difficult fighter in, who was it you said? Kid Galahad. But I understand that he's never been so essentially what I'm saying is Lopez has never been with that type of fighter. What happens if Warrington decides to smother him, stay on his chest? Can El Venado Lopez fight in that close quarter?
Yeah, he dropped Jason Vargas with the feint to the liver. The announcers, I think Timothy Bradley was saying, "Oh, we thought that head was going, that shot was going to the head. It was going upstairs, but he landed it to the body." And he's been a little bit of a warpath, guys, like with Isaac Lowe, Jason Vargas. Was it Gabriel Foro? I never seen I have, but that's basically one of the worst one-sided beatings I've seen. I get compared to other one-sided beatings, and that was one. He basically put a career beating on that dude, Gabriel Flores Jr. I know he's a contender. And with El Vences, I think Tiburon Vences, he injured his hand, but still he got the job done. He battered him from pillar to post in the 6th round. And there's a few other names in there. Abraham Montoya, I think he lost by majority decision. Hey, but that's part of the game. You know, you learn as you go.
Yeah. There's no listen over here. We don't besmirch people for losing early in the career, especially since he's had a string of wins since then. So evidently he's getting better. Shout out to Super Sardonic says Warrington sharpening that forehead on an angle grinder. That's what people are saying. People are expecting headbutts. Hopefully that doesn't mar the fight. Hopefully we see none of that and we see clean boxing action. Jimmy, who do you pick for that fight on Saturday?
Between Lara and between Lopez and Warrington.
Yes.
Damn. Yeah, I like Lopez's power, and I did see. Wasn't Warrington? Didn't? Yeah, he got lost. He got stopped by Lara, right?
Yes.
But he's a tough kid. It's experience against power and all, and I have seen him take the. So I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna go out with the Mexican kid. I'm gonna go with the Mexican kid for later round stoppage. I'm gonna ride off Gonzalez. He sounds so confident. I can't go against it. So I can't even take any. If I win, the pick is. I gotta give it to Gonzalo. But yeah, no.
He's got a good uppercut too, Jimmy. He's got a good uppercut. So on the inside, he can split the guard and he will thrust that. He'll punch with power. He'll throw it back into his punches.
What's the Vegas odds right now? Does anybody know the spread?
No,
I'm just curious who Vegas is picking.
Yeah, but I don't listen. Just as a fair warning to people out there, don't base this fight off the Lara fight, because Lara is a different type of fighter than Lopez. I mean, yes, they're both power punchers and they're both from Mexico, but Lopez is a more explosive guy, but he doesn't fight consistently on the inside. He likes to stay in the center of the ring, bum rush a guy with feints.
I can't remember though. How did Warren go out?
I can't
remember. Did Josh Warrington go out, or was it just like, what's that?
Yeah, I can't hear what you're saying. What did you say?
I can't remember. Did Josh Warrington, did Lara stop him, like put him out, or was it like a accumulation of ref jumped in? I can't remember.
That's a good question. I think he dropped him for like the fourth time in the fight or something like that, and then I think he got up and the ref waved it off. But he was never completely out.
So he wasn't starched. Yeah, okay, that answers my question. So he wasn't starched, like fucking out cold. All right.
Yeah,
so,
I don't think so.
Okay.
The odds for this fight appear to be, the fuck is it, 6-5? I don't know what that means. Hold on a second. Sports best listings. Warrington versus Lopez betting odds. Prediction. Okay, so apparently Warrington is like a 2-1 favorite almost.
2-1. Wow, they got him that far apart, huh?
2-1, I said.
Yeah, 2-1. 2-1.
I mean, that's pretty close, no? That's about as close as it gets, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't see what they're not seeing, or under what a premise, what idea, because he's a local fighter in England. Man, some people are like drinking the Kool-Aid. This dude's 32, man. He got 24% KO ratio. I know he's a good boxer. But, I mean, a dude as aggressive as Benavidez Lopez, and I'm not so sure about the inside fighting, but now that you bring it into question, but I know that he throws a hell of an uppercut. He's got a powerful right hook, because I seen him drop in some of the fights that I rewatched, dudes with that right hook. And I mean, if you're going backwards, dude, the guy's gonna go. He's gonna throw sledgehammers, one after another. Not like I said, not necessarily coupling the punches together like a combination puncher, but he'll just keep going like continuously, one after another until he breaks you down. Now, if it's an inside type of fight, maybe Warrington, yeah, he's cagey. He throws more shots and he puts his punches together in combinations. But Benavidez Lopez will still throw with everything that he'll split your guard. And if you land three, he might land a harder one than your three. Altogether, his work might be more damaging. Well, now, listen, if we go by scoring their rounds, they might favor Warrington, but I don't think he makes it to the final bell. That's what I'm saying.
Look, I understand why the odds are 2-1 for Warrington. I'm pretty sure what the odds makers are looking at is, like I said, the resume. They're looking at Lopez and they're saying, this guy, he's never been in the type of wars that Warrington survived, or that he's actually instigated and come out on top of. So that's probably what they're looking at. But man, both guys are going up against fighters that their opponents have very good strong points. Like for example, Warrington, he's got that activity rate. He can go all 12 rounds. He's got excellent lungs. Then Luis Alberto Lopez, he shoots from all angles. He's got that power. He's got the tenacity as well. And they're both. That's what I'm excited for, because they're both hungry. And I do hear, I never usually hear these guys pump it up so much, the fight. But there's also the outside the ring implications, legacy-wise. Luis Alberto Lopez is looking for that championship title. Warrington does feel like he's being slighted and that he's being underrated. And he knows he's got a style in front of him that's a guy that's going to jump at him and give him opportunities to score. So I'm putting all that together. I'm factoring all that together, and I'm saying, yep, I think this one is going to be interesting. And I'm crossing my gosh darn fingers that Warrington's head doesn't put a premature end to this and ends up marring the night. Now, let's move on to the other fight of the night. This one's taking place in New York City. Hey, the Big Apple, via ESPN. And that is, of course, Teofimo Lopez taking on Sandor Martin. Now, let me tell you something about Sandor Martin. The guy that last year upset Mikey Garcia. He's had one fight since. He's talked about in this Ring Magazine article about how he's had a hard time getting fights, but that now that he got the call 3 weeks prior to this fight, sort of a last-minute thing, he says, I feel great. He says he's always in training, so it shouldn't be a problem. But again, I like what he's saying coming into this fight, because he says, look, Lopez, you can't judge him based off the Kambosos loss. And I do, and you know what? I would say that about any other fighter. You can't judge a fighter just based on one loss. You can take a lot of things into consideration and factor in using that loss. But Lopez is going to go in there, and he's hungry, and he's looking ahead to big fights as well. And Sandor Martin knows that. And Martin said that he believes Kambosos really added something to his style, but that the weak spots that he can exploit are actually going to be much different. Sandor Martin is a southpaw. He's very slippery. Teofimo Lopez, meanwhile, and this is the thing that I found interesting. Last year, when he was on top of the world, prior to the Kambosos upset, he said he wanted to fight Josh Taylor, but that he wasn't willing to go to the UK to do it because he felt that he wasn't going to be able to get a fair shake. Now, he's overlooking Martin, it seems, because he's already talking about how he wants Josh Taylor next year, and he's willing to do it in the UK now. So in a way, it's good to hear Teofimo Lopez understanding now that he's no longer in the driver's seat. He perhaps even never was. He overrated his value outside the ring. But I don't like the fact that he's already, again, the last time he was talking about Josh Taylor, that was last year, and he had an opponent in front of him that he overlooked. And it seems like he's doing the same thing now. Guys, what do you expect this Saturday between Teofimo Lopez and Sandor Martin?
Yeah, go ahead, Jimmy. I've been having the conversation.
Oh, no, dude, it's all right. I'll make it quick. Sandor Martin showed he's a well-schooled fighter, but he's got no power, right? Even less than Kambosos. And if you can't hurt Teofimo Lopez, you can't get his respect that way. Is there a chance he's going to overlook him to the point where he's trying to just blow him out one shot? I can't think he'd be that stupid. I mean, that'd be like record-breaking stupid if he was to ever reenact that. I think he's hungry enough. I just don't think Martin's got enough power to keep him off him. I think he has the ability to make him swing at ghosts and look silly, but that's a hard. I mean, Lopez has genuine power. If he catches you right, he can hurt you. And again, Sandor Martin, he made his bones off that one fight. That's really what we know of him. And Mickey was cashing him in. He was mailing those fights in for the longest time. You knew that once he took that Spence fight, it was only about the money for that dude. He didn't have any passion for the game. That's why he retired after he didn't want to do his family name anymore. So it's great win, but is it a mirage? You know what I'm saying? One of those tricky things, like kind of what happened with Kambosos. I'm going to go with the easy bet. I'm not going out on a limb. I'm going to go with Teofimo Lopez, and I believe he's going to stop him. And if he doesn't, might want to question what he thinks he has for power against the other guys. Because when you got a guy who can't hurt you and you're an explosive power puncher and you don't stop him, then maybe you ain't that explosive after all. And that's it.
But let me just ask you something. When you're talking about Xander Martin's lack of power, how is that going to figure out in the fight, you think? Like, you think Lopez is just going to walk him down?
Yes, exactly. For a power puncher, remember, he's setting up his spot, looking for his shot. It makes it a lot harder. We've seen it. Think about it this way. In the same, put it with like Gervonta Davis, how he's able to sit there and like just let those punches of fucking, Leo Cruz just bounce off him. He wasn't even worried about what was coming at him. I mean, he's got a gallon neck. He can take a shot. But he wasn't worried. When you're not worried about the punches coming at you, like, look at the difference with Romero. Even though that kid's just awful, he still hits pretty hard. So, Davis had to kind of jump around, just wait for that shot he could take. But if you're not, it makes a big difference with a power puncher. If he's not worried about what's coming at him, it makes it a little easier to get your spot, to get your shot off, or to pick your spot. Because you're not worried about getting stopped. If you're fighting someone who hit as hard as he is, you know what I'm saying? It's a big difference.
Yeah, I got something to add to that, but I don't know if, Gonzalo, you want to add your 2 cents?
Yeah, in regards to Sandor Martin, because he is fighting Teofimo Lopez, there's not a whole lot of like videotape, or we only have that one fight as evidence against rusty Mikey Garcia. Now, Mikey Garcia, for all as good as he is, he was always considered a flat-footed fighter. Now you add the fact that he was rusty against a guy that's got good footwork. We're not going to take that away from Sandor Martin. From what I witnessed, he's pretty fleet-footed. He's got that pesky style. He'll trouble you in spots, and if you can't turn him on a dime, like Mikey Garcia, who was half retired, he's going to make you look extra silly. Okay, but now let's say Teofimo, he's muscle bound, but for a guy that's muscle bound, he's very athletic, and the power carried. He's got a power jab. That's how he dropped Pedro Campa. So it doesn't necessarily have to come with the throw hand. He could throw a 1, 2, 1, and shoot it with power, with the momentum, and he can hook. Where sometimes he telegraphs, but just doesn't mean because he sometimes doesn't mean that he always. Sometimes he doesn't at all. When he starts chucking and diving back and forth, he'll disguise them hooks, and he can catch you. So he's got power in that lead hand, and he's pretty athletic for a guy that got a lot of muscle. And like I said, the power carried. So I think, I'm going to play a little bit of triangle theory, because sometimes at work, you can't always put all your eggs in one basket, but that's what I'm thinking. The dude's youthfulness and athleticness, along with the power that carried, will make the difference from a rusty fighter that Mikey Garcia showed up on the ring that night, who was already like flat-footed to begin with.
That's a good point. Now, and I just want to, by the way, the Quags in the chat says the bend over. I mean, come on. But look, here's the thing. I wanted to add something to what Jimmy said about the power, or Xander Martin's power. I don't think it's so much the lack of power from Xander Martin, although it is. You look at his record and he doesn't, it would indicate that he doesn't have power. I think he's got enough power to get guys' respect, but here's the bigger problem, I think. The lack of activity. He doesn't let his hands go all that much. Now, you would understand that against like Mikey Garcia, for example, because, okay, Mikey Garcia is very good defensively, and you don't want to just go all out against Mikey Garcia. He'll time you in between those shots. But you look at the Jose Felix fight after the Mikey Garcia fight, and again, it's just that he likes to take his time. And like Jimmy said, you give that to a guy like Lopez, because they're similar styles. They're both guys that aren't all that active in the ring. I want to say, they don't throw that many shots. But then with Lopez, you have a guy who knows what he's doing. I think he's slightly faster than Xander Martin. And then on top of that, he hits harder. If he's not all that worried about what's coming back, it's going to give him time and the ability to play around and find angles. What you want to do against a guy like Lopez is you really want to take it to him. And it's difficult to do that because the last time he fought a southpaw of quality was Vasyl Lomachenko. And Lomachenko is a different guy than Xander Martin. He'll push the pace. Unlike Martin, who likes to step back and let you come to him, and he likes to dance around and counter. Lomachenko was taking it to Lopez, and Lomachenko has a high guard. As soon as he punches, he brings his hands right back up to block shots. I don't know if Xander Martin is going to do that against Teofimo Lopez. There's going to be incoming fire real quick and heavy. So I think Lopez is going to win it. I don't think he's going to look all that great because Xander Martin is a very slippery fighter in there. And I think Xander Martin's going to have his success, especially with that jab. Like, here's the thing, though. If Martin wants to win, he's got to let those hands go and be prepared to take some shots. I don't know if he's going to be intimidated by Teofimo Lopez because he's got that quick trigger that really makes some people go, you know what, I don't want to really throw shots against this guy. But Lopez he's beatable, man. He's beatable. He looked good against Campa, even though Campa actually, caught him a couple of times in there, and it seemed like Lopez at some point was running out of ideas. But that's okay. That's Campa. This is a tricky guy, man. So I don't know if Lopez is going to be able to figure him out. I don't know if he's going to be willing to push the pace against a guy like Martin, or if he's going to be able to do it and cut the ring off and all that. But I am going with Lopez. But man, I'll tell you something. I haven't been really confident lately with some of these fights, and it's the same thing with this one.
Well,
He's going to get some respect
on him.
Yeah, sorry, Jimmy. Go ahead, man.
Oh no, I just was saying that one comment. It would be a big indictment on Teofimo Lopez if he goes in there and goes life and death with this kid.
I mean, crazy,
yeah.
You think he showed such signs of frustration like he did against Cambosos? A guy that's not necessarily a power puncher either. But, he looked frustrated. I know he had personal problems. I think Teofimo's worst enemy, and I've heard this other people mention that it might be himself. And the dad, it's all going to depend if he's fucking up in the beginning of the fight, because this dude's fucking hopping around like a bunny rabbit and doing good. Is his dad gonna tell him the wrong instructions, and is he gonna start fucking getting all frustrated? The next thing you know, he can't pull his head out of his ass, and he's fucking like looking all not looking so good.
Well, to be honest with you, does he even really listen to his father? If you go back and watch his fights, a lot of the shit his father would say, all right, now go out and do this, he wouldn't even do it. He would just go, oh, yeah, and go out and do what he does. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't know. Sometimes I think, you know what I mean, that he's more of a cheerleader, and half the time he isn't saying anything worth constructive at all. Just, doing a rah shit. Yeah, exactly.
What the fuck?
Knock him out. Yeah. I want to get my picture took.
I remember when Mike Tyson was. Just real quick. I remember when Mike Tyson was fighting Holyfield the first time. He was getting beat up, and I think one of his assistant trainers or something told him, "Hit harder, Mike." Okay, that's great advice right there, man. I'm pretty sure Tyson hadn't thought of that one, man. Hit harder.
Because he did show frustrations against the Nakatani, Hiroshima or Sakatani, whatever his name is. Yeah, he just lost, by the way. He lost, by the way, and that guy gave him a lot of problems. Well, that doesn't mean anything. I'm just mentioning that, but that guy gave him a lot of problems, and a lot of people will say, "Oh, well, he knocked out Comey." Yeah, he did, but basically, Comey got into a shootout with him. Hey, it's gonna be either him or you. And sometimes those kind of performances get a little bit overvalued, I think, because, he does hit hard. But is that guy going to stand in front of him and go out into a shootout like Richard Comey did? I don't think so.
I mean, listen, you know what? You guys are bringing up some good points. And I think that's something that I haven't really read a lot of being said about that in these articles, which is that what is Teofimo Lopez's mindset here coming into this fight? We know coming into his comeback fight, people were bringing that up. But it seems like now, because he beat a relatively unheralded opponent in Ocampo, it seems like now people are saying, oh, well, he got his issues out of the way, his mental issues. I don't know, man. This is really a bad matchup against a guy that's very slippery. So, I don't know, man. If things get bad for him, what's his trainer going to say? Is he going to be able to guide him, or is he going to make things worse?
He clearly still has a chip on his shoulder. He's still a very angry kid. He's one of those people. He's fiery. You know what I mean? And social media wrecked him. Honestly, he's just one of those guys who shouldn't be on social media. I know if I was a professional fighter, I would avoid it. Like, why would I want to hear fucking Johnny Fistfuck 973 has to say about me. You know what I mean? Like, and then you read it though, and then he gets pissed, and he'll get in these shootouts with people on Twitter, and you can hear it's the us against the world mentality. He just should leave that shit alone, focus on his fighting. And but it's it's a harder thing to say. But yeah, no, I don't think he's all the way back yet because he's still angry. He still feels slighted. He still doesn't feel when you're trying to talk people into respecting you, and just some of the things he says. You go back on that crazy shit he said to Mr. Moonshine there when he had him on. He was saying some nutty shit, So I don't know. And again, as long as you have that father around. That dude's just toxic. So, yeah.
Well, listen, I want to say something about Teofimo Lopez as a fighter because it's hard to get a gauge on. Well, for a lot of people, they seem to have difficulty gauging how good is he. Some people underrate him, some people overrate him. I got him right down there as a solid B+ fighter because of his physical talent. Again, that's something that you're just born with, explosiveness and that type of power. That being said, I'm not quite confident in his skill set. Like Gonzalo said earlier, he struggled mightily against Nakatani to the point where he said, no more tall fighters. Can you believe that? Can you believe a fighter saying every time he has a difficult time with somebody, he says, you know what, no more fighters who have that type of attribute, they gave me trouble. He was also struggling against Eddie Statel before he stopped him with a body shot. Now, Lomachenko fight is his holy grail, or it's still considered his biggest achievement. But that was, again, look at the context of that fight. Lomachenko's not doing anything in the early rounds. He's still trying to warm that shoulder up. He's just covering up, letting Teofimo Lopez shoot his wad. And then once he turned it on, there was a big divide in dominance. And Lomachenko, in other words, when Lomachenko wasn't doing anything, Teofimo Lopez was outworking him. When Lomachenko turned it up, he was beating him up. I mean, there's a big divide there in terms of when one guy turned it 100%, it was a much, much different fight than when you were 100% and he was at a 50. The other thing is, since then, the Kambosos fight, though, I do believe people make it out to be as, Kambosos schooled Lopez. I mean, I don't know. Look at Kambosos' face after the fight. The guy got dropped. Lopez did make it close down the stretch. He busted him up. It's not like Kambosos had an easy time with him. That's why when going into the Devin Haney fight, I'm thinking, look, this Kambosos guy ain't all that great either. People are overrating him a little bit. So Teofimo Lopez, that's why I'm saying he's a B+ fighter. He's not as, it's like they say in the military. It's never as good as you think and it's never as bad as you think. And I think that fits Teofimo Lopez perfectly. He's good.
He relies heavily on his athleticism.
Yes. Jimmy, you just said it in one short sentence, what I've been trying to say for the past fucking 5 minutes. Yes, exactly. That's absolutely correct. But anyway, listen, we'll see what happens. I'm excited for that one. And like I said, Xander Martin, key to victory, throw a lot of jabs. Be prepared to outwork Lopez. Don't get in your comfort zone and, I don't want to throw enough shots. Fuck that. This guy is beatable. And if he wants to take it, and again, it's interesting going into this fight because Lopez, there's a lot at stake for him too, man. I mean, he's lucky Top Rank had him back after that Kambosos fiasco. He can still keep himself afloat here. Maybe even enter the top 10 pound for pound rank at some point. The 140 pound division seems to be wide open now with Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor's going to leave it. Whatever happens with the Carroll fight, win or lose, he's leaving that division. So there's an opening there for somebody to take over. Prograis is starting to take over that division now. And there's a potential for a Prograis-Lopez fight. So Teofimo really needs to win this fight, man. It would look mightily bad for him.
BD, and what you mentioned earlier, I think you're kind of correct on that. That I don't think that it's not necessarily that he cannot punch. It's just he don't want to stick around to find out. He just wants to keep it moving. He don't want to sit down on the shots but at some point you have to stand your ground. If you're gonna be there if the fight goes for however many rounds it does, you're gonna have to sometimes. Not always, but most of the time, I would say that you're going to have to fucking sit down in the pocket and exchange shots with your opponent. And he's going to have, if he has to do that, he's got to take a page out of maybe in a losing effort. What's that dude that fought Victor Ortiz? McKinnison. That dude only had 3 knockouts, but at some point he said to himself, this dude's not going to stop coming. So I got to get some respect out of him. And the dude actually went 8 rounds. He's went further than any of Victor Ortiz's opponents. And for a guy that had 3 KOs, I mean, he did very well. But maybe he hadn't explored that in the past. That might be one of the things that he might not be so good at doing, this Sandro Martin guy, sitting down on your shots. But at some point, you're going to have to do that, I think, if you're going to win, if you're looking at winning.
Absolutely, Gonzalo. Absolutely. And it's going to be very interesting watching the first couple of rounds of that fight, because if Teofimo Lopez can't comprehensively outbox him in the middle of the ring, then of course logic would dictate he's going to have to chase him down, cut off the ring. And that's not Teofimo Lopez's game. He didn't do it against Nakatani. He wasn't doing it against Tatel. He certainly wasn't doing it against Vasyl Lomachenko. So it's going to be interesting to see how that fight goes. I'm going to open up the phone lines, but we still got a lot to cover here in regards to... Oh, and of course I forgot, Crawford versus Avanesyan. That's taking place on Saturday as well.
I thought you were going to mention Mills Lane passed away. So did Christy Alley, by the way. They're probably hanging out, in the heavens.
Christy Alley? She passed away as well.
Yeah, in Mills Lane.
I didn't know she was in her 70s.
Yeah, sucks. I like Mills Lane. What's that?
No, I was saying that Christy Alley, I didn't know she was 70-something. I didn't know she was that old.
71. But, 71, yeah.
Well, listen, there's a lot to get to here. I'm going to open up the phone. I was like...
Well, you just said about Crawford and Avanesyan, how many people got pissed when they found out that Crawford... Remember, because the thing was, when he had enough of the bullshit the PBC was playing, trying to push it till next year, not offering him any guaranteed money. So he said, fuck it, I'm going to go with Avanesyan because I want to get a fight in. And they're like, not going to make any money. He's like, no, I'm getting $10 million. Everybody was like, bullshit. Not only is he getting 10, Bob Arum said that he through his connections was told that the money's in the bank. The $5 million that he hasn't been paid is already in escrow. So, and he's been paid half of it up front. They already cut him a check for $5 million. Holy shit! Did that send people spiraling? You know, he was so angry because remember the Black Prime, the Spence fans and the PBC fans. Yeah, they went berserk over that. So it's like, wow, so there you go. Tells you right
that's
there.
Funny,
and what's that?
That's funny. That's funny that people are so picking sides this strongly. I've grown accustomed to saying fuck both of them, man. Because Crawford clearly, it seems to me, clearly. I'm hesitant to say clearly, but I'm getting there, man. That he doesn't give a shit about fans either. So him finding a guy like yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with you too about both of them. But I just think it's funny that angle, how these people are actually angry over it. Also, very important thing to talk about. Boots fights 4 minutes all year, and now he's fighting the 29th ranked. Because they announced that last night. The guy he's fighting is 29th ranked in the world. His first name's Karen. And then, what about Bobo? Fucking Donaire, whatever his name is. He sits there and fucking ducks Allegri, the kid, twice, I believe, wasn't it? Didn't want to fight Ryder. He said he was injured, whatever. Goes and signs with the PBC. He's fighting a 59th ranked guy right now. That's the opponent this dude's fighting. 59th ranked in the world. That's bad enough. Then to come out today, just before we went on air, I saw an article where he said that Canelo has avoided fighting dogs. And it's just really let that sink in. The guy who's literally fought nobody. I mean, his resume is so thick, you turn that shit sideways, it's invisible. And he's sitting there saying he's avoiding fighting dogs. Like, the self-awareness is just shocking.
Well, I tell people to give people a shout out there and tell them to hit the like. The phone lines are open, so make sure to call and give us your opinions and give us your predictions on the fights and your opinions and everything we're going to be talking about here. Jimmy, you just brought that up about the whole Boo Boo Andrade thing, and he said, well, actually, let me play. Hold on a second. Where do I got it here? Okay, yeah, I got the clip here. It's a short clip, very short. It's a couple of seconds there. He's not like Jimmy said. He's not with the PBC. Andrade is, and he's fighting a guy whose record is horrible. And let's just listen what he has to say here.
Yeah, who's the other two?
I mean, I had a hit list, but time. Triple G, that just ran out of time. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I can mention guys, but their timeline's over now. Like me fighting Triple G, yeah, it's good for my resume, but whatever. Of course, Canelo, but you see where that goes. No way. He ain't trying to get in there with the real dogs. Or somebody that knows how to really fight and that can punch too as well. That's smart. Right now it's like.
So he's saying Canelo don't want none of the top dogs. Now, this is what's always interesting about these guys that besmirch or belittle Canelo's resume. They always go, "Oh, those guys are weak. The guys he's for are weak." But like, what's Andrade's record is what I'm wondering. Because I mean, you look at him when he finally steps it up against, and I'm saying finally steps it up against the best opponents on his record, which again they're not world champions. But when he steps it up to his best opponents, Zulensky. Okay, he came out of the gate, dropped Zulensky, and then what happens? Last 6 rounds, he starts just dancing around the ring, winging an overhand left, a sloppy overhand left every now and then, and that was it. Horrible last 6 rounds. He fights Liam Williams, a guy who's tough, but only really has a big right hand. Okay, he drops him early, then he gets stunned. Again, another awful 6 rounds, just clinching, clutching. Like, why don't a lot of these supporters of Andrade never mention that? Because if Canelo wins, then I'm pretty sure there are going to be some people saying, "Well, listen, Andrade, look at his past fights; he sucked." So I don't understand what makes Andrade a guy that's must-see TV against Canelo.
It's honestly, like I said, I couldn't even believe it. I had to double check that he would even say something so stupid. You know what I mean? You're talking about a kid who was a blue chipper. He was an amateur standout, had all the glory coming in. And then there's Canelo, turned pro in the fucking, in Mexico and fighting gritty clubs. Nothing but sheer determination and fucking became the face of boxing and went on and unified the 168 pounds division in 11 months. Goes up and fights Bivol up at light heavyweight. A kid who started his first fight was at 140 and he fought at light heavy and he's only 5'8". And it's funny, the guy in the article I saw that wrote was Boxing 24. It's like the biggest trash rag, with covers boxing. That guy actually said he called Bivol a cherry pick gone wrong. So just that right there tells you everything about the dude. And Andrade's fans or the people, even that kid Cross, I think is his name. Only that knucklehead would say that because he's projecting, because he thought Bivol was a cherry pick, which tells you he knows nothing what he's talking about, because people who actually know boxing said this will be his toughest fight. Like Steve said, this is going to be his biggest opponent. Most of us picked Bivol to win. So how was that a cherry pick in any way, shape, or form? It was only cherry pick to knuckleheads who had no idea how to look at Bivol and say, yeah, this kid is just all wrong for Canelo, because he doesn't have the ability to assess that. So they just, honestly, at this point, it's almost like they say whatever because they know their fans, his fans, are going to follow him and be on his side, on his jock, and cut up Canelo no matter what they say. You could say all that. You could say, just look at one guy's resume and look at the other. How could you're fucking the one saying that he's not facing any dogs? Dude, you're facing fucking puppies, bro. It's just it's bad. It's bad. I just hope someday he fucking does fight Canelo more than ever, so Canelo knocks him the fuck out and shuts his mouth.
But that's the thing, though. That's the thing. We're talking about how, listen, anybody can criticize anybody's record. That's what we do, especially here on the YouTube boxing community. We analyze people's fights and all that. But then let's take a look at what happens in the ring. If you're gonna call Canelo's opposition crap, which people are certainly welcome to do, then let's take a look at Andrade's fights. And that's what I'm trying to get at. What gives people the impression that this guy is must-see TV against Canelo? Is he really that much better or worse than Billy Joe Saunders? Because I think they are about the same. He's the Panamanian version of Billy Joe Saunders, as far as I'm concerned. And look, listen, Andrade
resume.
I mean, it's like Caleb Plant in a way, but I think he's worse. Caleb Plant will beat him.
I would agree with that. And it's not a trash race. Listen, Andrade's not a trash fighter. He doesn't have a trash resume. But I'm saying is the way he builds himself up and the way his fans build him up, oh man, Canelo don't want none of that. Well, what he said, he don't want to fight no dogs that know how to fight. You're not that much better or worse than the guys he's beaten. Gonzalez just put up Caleb Plant. Are you going to tell me Andrade is that much better than Caleb Plant? Let's compromise and say they're the same level. Why is he?
The thing with him, I believe, my theory is he's tall, he's long and gangly. He kind of looks like he's got Ronald McDonald feet. He gets disheveled. He can keep it together. He can keep it tight. A bladed stance. But as soon as the fight starts going along, like throughout the rounds, he starts losing his shape because it's hard for that body type when you're punching and you're trying to put like steam behind your punches, straight shots, and making them count. Man, you start getting tired and you start getting all disheveled. You can't keep it together like you did in the beginning.
There you go.
Yeah,
Man.
let's be honest. The dude went life and death and was put on his ass by Martirosyan. Went life and death with Martirosyan at 154. And you're the dog? I mean, what have you done? Like anything. List one guy. Never mind, the guy he's about to fight, Ryder, you didn't want anything to do with him. I got a back injury to get out of a fight with him. You ducked the other kid, Alakawi, I can't even pronounce his name. I'm not even going to attempt it. But he fucking ducked him. And, like, you're ducking fighters that would, that are not even anyone as good as Canelo, the people Canelo's beating. And it's just crazy that they would say that. But then again, it goes to show you. His fans, if anybody, like if I was a fan of someone like that and they said that, remember, I was a fan because he's a local kid. He came out and I just watched the decisions he made, running after money before, the minute he signed with Rock Nation, I'm like, oh, this is not going to end well. And it didn't. It took him forever to get out of that contract. And then he got into that whole, then he got the gig at HBO. They signed him. They gave him a 3-fight deal. I think he fought twice and they fired him. I said, no, dude, bye. You're boring. Your numbers suck. You didn't sell any tickets. We gave you an opportunity and you didn't do anything with it. Remember, he didn't finish out. I think he did 2 out of the 3 fights that HBO signed him to do. So,
listen.
He's got nobody to blame but himself.
When people go, like with Benavidez, I understand why people want to see Benavidez versus Canelo, because Benavidez, even though his opposition has been highly underwhelming, at least he goes out there and takes these guys out. So I understand why we want to see that Canelo fight, because especially myself, I'm thinking, look, can Canelo deal with Benavidez's power, the work rate? Can he stand there in a war of attrition at his age when he's shown signs that his body's starting to break down, the knee, the hand, all that? Those are all pertinent questions that would make me interested in the fight. With Andrade, what can he actually say about a potential Canelo fight? What's he going to say? He's going to say, well, my ability to clinch and clutch is going to really give him trouble? Yeah, it will, because he'll be frustrating. His defense, yeah, you got very good defense. Is that going to win you the fight? Like, I can't imagine why Canelo would be shaking his boots when he's already beaten guys like Lara, Austin Trout, what's his name, Caleb Plant, Billy Joe Saunders. Like, those guys are the same level or even better than Demetrius Andrade. So, I mean, look, Andrade at this point, he's being hard-headed too, and he's being hard-headed. He's saying, look, Canelo, fight me. And when Canelo tells these guys, fight each other, and then the winner can fight me, oh, you just want us to lose. What does that tell you? What does that statement from these guys say? That they're not that confident either. They don't want to go through another guy to get to Canelo. And that's what, at least Benavidez and Plant, that's what they're doing. That's what I wanted to see, them fighting each other. I don't like the fact that it's on pay-per-view, but at least they're fighting each other, because now they're going to have a case. Okay, Canelo, now you got to fight me, man. Who else are you going to fight at 168? But Demetrius Andrade never wanted to do that. Like Jimmy said, look what happened. Zach Parker. He could have been Zach Parker. Didn't do it. Could have been John Ryder. Didn't do it.
Yeah.
Didn't fight Johnny Beck. When Johnny Beck didn't look all that great in his last fight. I mean, he looked human. But I mean, he won the fight convincingly in my eyes. He didn't fight that guy. So why does he expect to just jump ahead and get a Canelo fight? And by the way, guys, I'll be right back. But please hit the like button. Hit the like button. The phone lines are open. Go ahead, Gonzalo. Take it away.
Yeah, he let those 2 opportunities go, like you mentioned, BDA, because if he would have beat Johnny Beck, I mean, what would have happened? He would have beat the guy that everybody wanted him to fight. It would have been for a title. He probably would have got, people would have been, okay, now, if you want to face Canelo, people are going to want to, like, see that, and same thing with Ryder. He would have became a mandatory, and he would have been fighting Andrade if he would have beat Ryder. And the guy, I mean, he starts losing his shape, bending at the waist, like when he's trying to get away from punches, and that would be prime for like a Canelo uppercut, the way he caught Billy Joe Saunders. And it's one of those things that when he starts losing his shape, I think that he's not prepared mentally to like go 12 rounds. He got that look in his eye, like of impending doom. Oh, he's coming for my head, like Teofimo Lopez when he was facing, I forget this guy, what is it called, Linares, right? Looking scared. So, I mean, that's what they want. He wants to get a payday. That's what he wants. So later, after he loses, he's gonna say, "Oh, well, I fought the best." After he makes millions, that's what he really wants.
100%. 100%. And it's just, they don't want to fight each other because they don't have the confidence. So like Mr. BDA said, he just wants us to lose. Just imagine saying that. It goes to show you their mindset. They're not confident in their own ability. Remember playing, hey, I wasn't that bad, right? I was pretty good. He said that to Canelo after the fight. And again, he had all the accolades coming out of the amateurs. He's long, he's tall, he's got long arms. Everything was in his way. Canelo was a short, stubby kid coming out of Mexico with nothing. And for him to just say that, it's laughable. It's not the way you gain yourself any respect. I mean, people see that, and anybody who's honest sees that, and you just want to laugh at him. It's like, dude, you're clowning yourself right now, right?
I mean, the guy got long arms, and he's fast, but as soon as he starts getting tired, and maybe like a short, stubby guy like Ryder or Canelo, when they got a game plan and they come attacking you, like, for example, Canelo sledgehammer over and over, and they're getting their distance and they're timing down, and they're catching you more often. As you're getting tired, they're closing in the distance. You get the sensation that this guy, his legs are going to be all spread apart. He's going to start dropping his hands. He's going to start dipping in the wrong way. Not necessarily hanging his head like a progress, waiting for you to punch. No, just moving out of the way. And basically, Canelo going to set a trap for you. And he's going to catch you and break your orbit, possibly. That could happen. He's leaning back, and Janny Beck is, like Janny Beck, he throws punches in a straight line and fucking keeps going forward, boom, boom, boom. If you start fucking trying to scoot your head out of the way to the side, or like actually walking backwards, like I said earlier, with your legs not necessarily under you, that's the perfect time to punch, because you can't punch back and you're all over the ring, not necessarily controlling your feet.
Are we done with Dimitri?
He's like 2 years older than Canelo too, so yeah, we're done.
Yeah, because I mean, this fucking guy, it's just the same thing, complaining. And then when he finally steps up against a high caliber guy, or as high caliber a guy as he can find, he stinks the joint out, fades away for the last 6 rounds, ends up clutching his way to a decision. I mean, come on, I'm a paying customer, and I'm giving that out now. That's what I'm saying all the time now. I'm a paying customer. We're paying customers. If Andrade wants to say, well, I'm taking a risk, but nobody told you to become a fighter, man. And if you're going to become a fighter, at least try to make it interesting. String some combos together, show up in shape. This guy doesn't do that. I mean, maybe he does train hard. And if he does train hard and he's still fading in the last 6 rounds of the fight, I don't know what to tell him, man. You don't deserve to be at this level. And you don't deserve to be getting paid the amount of money you're asking for. So it's just, listen, I'm becoming more and more selective about how much rope I give a lot of these guys. Because not for nothing, but you give these guys some rope, and instead of actually staying afloat, they actually use it to hang themselves. And then they make you look like an asshole. So no more, man. No more. I got high standards now, man. Becoming better with this whole shit. Hey, fellas, don't forget, the phone lines are open. So call in. Really, call in and hit that like button. Really appreciate it. Really helps us out. I was looking, Gonzalo, I asked you last night, what have you heard about the Canelo, the Chocolatito versus Estrada fight? Because some people were saying, Chocolatito got robbed. How come you can't see it? You sent me a clip of Chocolatito's own trainer saying that they didn't do well. In fact, I think he said they no problem with the decision. Then Chocolatito admitted that out of all this, the 3 fights, this was the most difficult for him. Now, he's not saying he felt he lost, but the second fight was competitive, highly competitive, and Gonzalez should have won it. Now, it was what I'm trying to say is it was as competitive as it could get while still maintaining a clear winner. But now that Gonzalez is saying that this was even tougher than the second fight, I think it seems to me like a bit of an admission that, holy shit, this was that he could have gone either way, which is not something he said after the second fight. So, I think people really should rewatch the fight and look closely at what's being scored. I think Chocolatito in some rounds did land the cleaner shots, whereas Estrada's shots were sort of being half blocked or breaking the guard, and thus a little bit more difficult to see. But the CompuBox numbers do show that although the numbers were close, Estrada did outland him throughout the fight. I don't know if it was every single round, whatever. But yeah, I think, and this time, I saw some of the people in our chat, and I respect their opinions, absolutely, man, trying to really get it going that Gonzalez got robbed, but it didn't pick up much steam, and I don't think there's that many people that saw that. And it's a shame because, Gonzalez, if they would have fought earlier, the first fight, what was 2012? Took about 9 years for them to rematch. I can only imagine what would have happened in between. I think Gonzalez is the better fighter overall in terms of legacy and skills. But he lost that fight man, on Saturday. But he lost that fight on Saturday, man. I don't see a robbery.
No way.
Let me just clarify. I'm not saying he conclusively lost, but I'm not seeing the robbery. I don't see what people say that he got robbed.
No. And I think it's an admission of his age because it wasn't like Estrada wasn't doing anything more difficult than he did in any other fight. It's just, it became more difficult because he got older. And Estrada, again, I'm not saying, trying to put that nefarious tactics on him, but he pushed that fight off, pushed it off. Whatever, long COVID. How many different times? 3 times they pushed that fight? They were trying to make that like right away. They wanted to come back to it right away, but, of course, COVID and shit. But I think that was a tactic. I think, to get him to 35, but whatever.
Well, listen, I think the other...
Yeah, go ahead, Billy.
No, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
It's Chocolatito. He didn't do anything wrong when he got other than the fact that he got going a little bit too late. But then when he did pick it up, the punches that he did land, he was leaning to them. He was turning them over. He was landing the cleaner shots. And if you have it, maybe. Like an equal going into the last round and it's up in the air, man, I would, if Chocolatito would have won the last round, I could have said, hey, it was a close fight, but I give it to Chocolatito because I think he was doing great work in the second half. But although that was the circumstance, in my opinion, a lot of people thought the same thing. The fight was open in the 12th round. Estrada won that round. He hurt Chocolatito to the body. A lot of people are going to say, well, he's a Mexican. He's not supposed to get on the back foot. Okay, he did a little bit of what Marquez does, counter punching. Yeah, Chocolatito, great fighter. He's landing sometimes at will, but right now he's getting older. And given that Gallito's a little bit bigger, dude, he's the one stepping backward and kind of letting this dude punch himself out. Then he's catching him clean as the dude is getting older and getting tired and withering away. But no, that wasn't necessarily what happened. He started dialing it in. Okay, he did start landing, but he got it going a little bit too late. And like I said, it was open in the 12th round, and I think Estrada won that, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. And look, listen, fights are close. Sometimes they are very difficult to score. And it's not a cop-out to say, well, it could have gone either way. It just fucking happens. It's a close fight. And people need to get their feelings out of the way, man, because I know Chocolatito has a lot of fans. I'm a Chocolatito fan. This is a guy that represents what a boxer should be. But at the same time, I do believe that Estrada is like, for example, when a guy gets a bad decision, it's the fighter that gets the flack, as if he's the one that paid the judges. And I think at this time right now, with Estrada, I'm not saying that it was a bad decision like the second one, but people are still overlooking Estrada. I mean, think about it. This is the guy that looked like the Walking Dead against Arhi in his last fight. I was very curious to see how he was going to look against Gonzalez inside of that. I said, okay, is that deterioration going to continue, or was that just a bad night? Because it had to have been a bad night, I believed, because Estrada had beaten better fighters than Arhi. Arhi's not that good to where he could have made a regular Estrada look that bad. That's one of those type of situations. And indeed, look at what happened. He stepped it up. He got his mojo back against Gonzalez when it counted the most. So people are... it's a shame for Estrada that he's always going to be in the shadow of Chocolatito Gonzalez, because they're very similar fighters. Very good combination punches. They're both very well conditioned. They fight the best, but it's just that bad decision in the second fight, and then this one. People are always going to say, "Well, Chocolatito was older, blah blah blah." So he's in a bit of a bad spot. The only thing he can do then is to continue fighting the best, beating the best. Oh, and by the way, I didn't even know this, but I was over at White Rapids, and I heard this. Apparently, Rachel Donaire, the wife and manager, I believe, or advisor of Nonito Donaire, was at the fight, and she wanted to get into the ring, and I think Eddie Hearn kicked her out. I think he had her escorted out of the arena, because they want to hype up a fourth fight with Estrada, or a fourth fight between Estrada and Chocolatito, I should say. So they didn't want anything to do with Nonito going in there or entering the equation. Did you guys hear about that?
No, but she is a busy bee, isn't she?
Well, you have experience with Filipino women, man.
Yeah, she likes to get in the mix.
Yeah, certainly does. I've seen her around the other podcasts. But Jimmy, what do you think about that?
Yeah, she went on with Ring, Julius's channel, and talked to her about what happened. I guess she said she got like the security put the hands on her, I believe, unless I'm not mistaken, which is pretty fucked up. But she's definitely not someone who she's not afraid to put her nose in the shit, to Gonzalo's point. You know what I mean? She's definitely one of those wives, but she's a manager and she's looking up her husband, but he's 40 years old, so he's just trying to get paid, but
I don't understand why they're looking
still
for
a PBC fighter. I think
I don't
he's still a PBC fighter. Hearn's probably like, get the fuck out of here,
I don't understand what the point of that is, though. Estrada's a 115 fighter. Donaire's fought up as high as 126. I know he's making 118, but does he want Estrada to move up? And if so, what's the point? Estrada's got a plethora of fights at 115 left, and he's not that big a guy. He doesn't have the style to be moving up to 118. He doesn't have the firepower either, or the quick hands, to dart around somebody, or the quick hands and feet. So I don't know. I think Donaire smells of desperation, and I don't understand why, though. I mean, Donaire's had about he's 40 something, right? He's had about as good a career as you could have. He fought some of the best. He was a top 3 pound for pound fighter at some point, and that was when there were a lot of guys out there that could have easily been in the top 3, and he was up there. So just gives you an idea of how good a fighter he was. But I understand why he wants to continue at the same time, because of course at 40 years old he still has something left, and he knows that that's not going to last for much longer. So, but listen, Estrada, I wouldn't even be excited to see that fight. What about you guys?
Yeah, no, he'd either be emaciated to go down to 115, or is he going to try to talk? But he'd have to, because if he wants, he's stressing he wants somebody with a belt. So is he really going to go to 115? I think it'd be very, very difficult to get down to that size, to melt down to that size. But I don't know. I got kind of a feeling it's a little glory snatching, but whatever.
Yeah. That's the way it seems like to me a little bit, man. But hey, no harm, no foul. It's just it's weird to see somebody still looking for that type of fighting. I mean, sending out his wife. I mean, but at the same time, why did Rachel Donaire think was going to happen? That she was going to step in the ring? Like, I bet you half the crowd doesn't even know who the fuck she is, even if they do announce her. Some guys, they're probably drunk and they're going, well, who Donaire? So I think that was a bad move. Now, whether she was manhandled or not by the security, I don't know. I wouldn't doubt it. Some of these guys, they're not exactly consummate professionals.
Well, can I mention one thing? Did we even talk about this? Our favorite LDBCer. Yeah, did we mention how CC the Great? She said it's Teofimo Lopez. It's all right to go after his kid.
I heard about that.
Did you see that video?
I heard about that.
Unbelievable. Just wanted to put that out there, just to show you. So, because some people kind of complain like that we thought we were going after a woman when we talked about Cece, and I don't think people appreciated how vile she really is.
Wait a minute.
Because Bill Haney was on the thing, and Bill Haney co-signed it. Trill Boxing, although he did say, "Oh no, man, don't go there, don't go there, no, don't go there," but yet you didn't hang up on her and you let her stay. He's one of those, you know what I mean? Oh no, don't do that, don't say that. But lets her back on the show. So it's like, you know what I mean? Whatever. And Bill Haney was there. Bill Haney said, "Nah, I appreciate it, man. Good looks for her. She's looking out. That's what, basically love is." So he was condoning Cece saying that Teofimo's newborn baby is open for ridicule or whatever open for is, and the crackhead father, and that, what do you call it? Leo Teofimo's, the mother has some, kangaroo neck, or whatever the fuck that is. But yeah, basically, and then you would have thought Bill Haney would have gone. But this way, it was so cringeworthy. It was so cross the line. Gervonta Davis tweeted out a frowny face about it. Like, wow. Like, why would you say that? And again, there was Bill Haney. Yep, condoning it. Not only didn't shut it down, but co-signed that fucking shit. So just another notch to what kind of guy Bill Haney is.
These people are lowlifes. I'm not surprised by what they say, and I'm no longer interested by what they say. Every once in a while, I'll make a mental note of what I hear about them or what I see about them on Twitter. and maybe give it to Bucho if he wants to make a compilation down the line. But like I said, these people are lowlifes, and I'm not expected by that type of low down behavior. I mean, listen, what a lineup you got in that podcast. A guy that used to sell drugs to kids in Bill Haney, who whores himself out to anybody that listen to spread a narrative. And you got CC the Great, a woman that used to make money by bum rushing Korean delis. I mean, what a lineup they have, and how unsurprising to hear them say that type of stuff. I'm not surprised.
Literally on that lineup, right? It was a cocaine dealer, a woman CC who defrauded thousands of people out of their money. Credit card scam, did time for that, and you got the guy who went to prison for, I heard, prostitution or and he's right now he breeds dogs and fights them. And Bill Haney, who went to prison for selling coke.
Listen,
and everybody can get a second chance, but it tells you a lot who they are. And the fact that he would continue, like he would co-sign her saying that was so out of control that he didn't condemn that immediately. Like, I'm his father. Yes, I'm the fighter's father. It's one thing about saying, like, if he just randomly started talking shit about Bill Haney, and it's like, why are you going after my father? But your father's also your trainer, your spokesman, who's shoving his face in front of every fucking camera he can find and run his mouth about people and spread lies about Lomachenko and spread lies about, they ducked that fucking, why didn't he come back and fight my son, when he knew very damn well that couldn't have ever have happened at the time. But still goes with that narrative.
Anyway, listen, don't be outraged by it. It's just fuck them. I mean, they're low lives. What do you expect? It's like the tale of the scorpion and the frog. Well, what's the moral of the story? Fucking, are you surprised by the fucking scorpion? That's why these people, look, they're good for a laugh. They're good for a laugh or two. But hey, speaking of Twitter, did you see what Espinosa said about the what's his name, Ennis fight against Karen?
No.
Oh, fuck. I can't find the tweet, okay? So I'm going to paraphrase here. But Montero said something about how, man, it's a shame that Ennis is only fighting once. That only fought once. And then now he's fighting this guy this coming January. And then Espinosa said something along the lines of, strategic thinking is clearly not your strong suit. His fight with Karen is Karen is the number 10 or whatever, blah, 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 ranked guy for the whatever fucking title they're fighting. And the winner of this fight positions himself with a fight with Spence or Crawford. I forget which. Again, I'm highly paraphrasing it because I don't follow the titles and all that, the rankings. But essentially what he was saying, Espinosa was saying is, this is a very important fight because it puts him in line for a title shot. And I'm thinking, okay, the fact that this Karen guy beating him puts you in position for a title just goes to show you how insignificant these titles are in the first place and how thin and how they'll rank anybody. Because I saw this Karen guy on YouTube. I don't go by records. I go by how they fight. So I said, let me go watch him. He's a short, I mean, he looks short at 5'9". He doesn't have any world-class speed power. And wow, that's the guy. Oh, it's just, so when he goes to Montero, he goes, oh, clearly strategic thinking is not your strong suit. It's like, what? They're fighting a guy that shouldn't even be in the rankings in the first place. I see the strategy, that it's all corrupt. The whole edifice is rotten from the core and up and down. That's strategic thinking. I mean, it's strategic thinking, but it's also dirty thinking, and it's indicative of how low this organization should be regarded by real boxing fans. But hey, it's a title shot. It's an eliminator.
Yeah, and did Mike push back? I hope. Did Mike come back at him? Want to say anything?
I don't know. I didn't follow it up.
Yeah, because that's asinine. Because he might be 10th in whatever fucking, shit sanctioning body, but worldwide ranking, he's number 29. So there's 28 other welterweights ranked better. Now, it's a joke fight, and it's on a pay-per-view. It's a co-main. It's insultive. And you know what it is? They have no money. So they had to find somebody who would they could pay $100,000 to. You know what I mean? I guarantee you this kid ain't making more than $100,000, and he'll still be as big as Payday. And then the other guy that Boo Boo's fighting has been knocked out by Ryder. He's been knocked out by Ellis. I mean, I think it was Ellis. I know a bunch of dudes have already stopped him. And so, like, what's his excuse for that? Do I need critical thinking to say that fight sucks too? Like, Steven Espinosa, man, that dude is just a fucking clown. He really
I actually
is.
saw somebody on Twitter looking at that Tank Davis card. He goes, honestly, it's not as bad as I thought. I go, first of all, anytime somebody prefaces it with honestly, why would you have to do that? Are you saying you're not honest most of the time, and you got to preface your statement by saying honestly? Second of all, not as bad as I thought. It's mismatches. That's all there is in that. Like the main event's pretty good, but pay-per-view, that's the big X factor here. It shouldn't be pay-per-view. And again, I saw some people saying, haha, people were making fun of the PBC's demise. Now they made the Ryan Garcia Tank Davis fight. Yeah, is that fight made? Is the date set? The venue set? Like there's a lot of people that are very skeptical now. I'm thinking that the Ryan Garcia fight might not happen. Listen, Tank Davis got to go to court.
Yeah.
So, anyway, yeah.
And even Gervonta Davis, he's already starting with his tweets. I suspect you're taking something. Man, come on. Are you going to go that route? And then in the end of the day, it's not going to fucking happen. They're going to take us on a fucking roller coaster.
Because you saw how big Garcia's looking. Garcia's been hitting the weights hard. That might slow him up. In fact, I know it will if he doesn't, as long as he doesn't try to do too much shoulder work or make his lats too much bigger. But his chest is thicker. He's more serrated. So, and you saw him with a sweater, he looked pretty, beefed up a little. So I think he's seeing that and like, wow, the kid stands 4 inches taller than me. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe is he trying to talk his way out and he's trying to lay an excuse? But no, there's no venue set. There's been nothing signed. They've agreed to terms. But here's the thing: has DAZN or Golden Boy agreed to let him go and fight over in the PBC? I haven't heard anything about that because he's under contract to them. He can't go and fight on them if they don't want him to. If they're not going to allow it. And why should they? Why should they let him go fight on a fucking network that's literally dying? Showtime's checking the fuck out. There's no doubt about that. And I guarantee you they're not going to carry boxing onto that Paramount app. Or if they did, there's not going to be nothing for a budget. And you're going to continue to see fights like this. I mean, it's an insult. Boo Boo fought 4 minutes this year. I guarantee you when they fucking called him and told him this is the guy you're going to fight, because Boo Boo's that talented. I mean, Boots is that talented. He was probably like, what the fuck? I'm not even going to break a sweat with this one. This is ridiculous. And it only creates bad habits. When you fight fucking dudes that you're so much better than, you create bad habits. They ain't making himself any better.
I believe
That's for sure.
the zone is going to be involved in that fight in some capacity, but it's not going to be a joint production. In other words, it's not going to be split where you can watch it on the zone Showtime. I think Showtime's going to carry it, and I forget exactly what they said the zone was going to do, but I think the zone had agreed to make the fight. I believe that's how they left it at. But everything you said again, like you said, they agreed to terms. Does that mean the fight's going to happen? And that doesn't dismiss the fact that look at what Showtime's got in the pipeline. Versus David Benavidez versus Caleb Plant. Good fight, pay-per-view. Hector Garcia versus Tank Davis. Good fight. Shouldn't be on pay-per-view. Yet it is on pay-per-view. Errol Spence hasn't fought. He's probably going to fight Keith Thurman, they said, right? That's made it the whole boxing world gag. That's going to be pay-per-view as well. So it's a listen, I don't want to get too much into the PBC thing because everything we've talked ad nauseum about this, but I'm just reiterating the point that the people that are thinking that because they announced Ryan Garcia versus Tank Davis, that somehow means that the PBC is still alive and strong. No. All right. And by the way, we got a phone call here. Shit, now they dropped down. But hey, somebody mentioned, Gonzalo mentioned Ryan Garcia. Yeah, that whole thing about Tank Davis saying, man, he owns something. And I think he even intimated, and I think, again, as always, he erased that comment. He said something along the lines of, if I ever catch somebody cheating with me, and again, I'm paraphrasing here, but I think he said something along the lines of, there'd be problems outside the ring, if you know what I mean. So this is a guy that just can't stop threatening people with physical violence outside the ring. And he's a guy that has indeed enacted physical violence on his significant other in public. He's a guy that ran into a bunch of people, including a pregnant woman, and then left the scene when she asked him for help, allegedly. I have to say allegedly. So this is a guy that is indeed in a violent profession. He's a violent individual outside the ring, and he can't stop threatening people with gang warfare whenever he's on the podium or on Twitter or whatever. So I don't know, man. I think Tank Davis, I like the move of getting away from Mayweather and Ellerby, but he should really hire somebody to keep him in check because he's just going around making things bad for himself. And as for the Ryan Garcia thing, yeah, man, we were talking about that over at What Rep It. It really does seem like he's a type of guy that's surrounded by yes men. You see Tank Davis when he's training, he's tapping the bag. You know that little workout you do when you want to cool down and get the lactic acid out of the arms. and you're just lightly tapping the bag nonstop. Ta, 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 ta. He's doing that, and he's got a crowd of people going, yeah, and they're clapping, woo, woo, woo. You know, they're hooting, hollering. It sounds like a fucking festival. And then he's, flexing in front of the mirror, and everybody's going, It's like, that's why they were probably putting in his head, Ryan Garcia, easy work, easy work. Now he's looking at this dude, and he's going, holy shit, he's pretty big, he can crack, and on top of he can crack, he's pretty fast, and I can't see that power coming, or it's going to be difficult to do so. So maybe now he's setting himself up with that whole allusion to PEDs. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he can underestimate him, thinking because he looks the way he does. I mean, I don't know, like the whole YouTube thing. He's a fucking fighter in his heart, and his abilities. He puts them on display, man. The dude can fucking fight, and if you would be naive not to think that he can't. It's like Joe Goosen said, per square inch. I mean, this is his trainer. Maybe he's exaggerating, but he's had a lot of world champions. But he said this about Ryan Garcia: pound per pound, per square inch. When he connects, I don't think I've had a harder puncher like this guy before. A trainer that was training him, that was holding the pads, the guy that used to take care of Eddie Reynoso's dogs. He had to take his hand out of the mitt, and he was going to break his fucking hand. So he actually had to put some duct tape and put his hand back in the pad because Ryan Garcia can crack.
Yeah, that is a
no, he absolutely can crack.
Yeah, that's a difficult fight, man. And I think that's Tank Davis starting to realize that. Because again, having yes men around you is not going to get you to be, it's not going to improve you as a fighter. You need somebody that's going to highlight your flaws. And I think that's what Ryan Garcia has with Goosen. I think Joe Goosen is gonna, and look, Joe Goosen is an underrated trainer, man. That some of the switches or the tinkering he made with Shane Mosley, for example, against Winker Wright in the rematch. I mean, Winker Wright's the type of guy, just all around bad style matchup for Shane Mosley. Bigger, Mosley wasn't gonna be able to hurt him. He wasn't gonna outbox him, and yet he made it highly competitive in the rematch, much more competitive than the first, obviously, which is something that people couldn't imagine Mosley doing. That people thought it was gonna be another trouncing. So. It's Goosen certainly knows he can see the flaws and he can correct them. Now, whether Ryan Garcia is willing to work hard on that, that's something that remains to be seen. I want to remind people that the phone lines are open. So call in.
No, and you can tell Garcia is a hard worker. If he respects what's coming at him, if he respects what he's being told, you can tell the kid would work hard. Because he learned how to do most of that fighting out of his gym. Sorry, Gonzalo, go.
No, Jimmy, the BDA, and I'm sorry. I was just gonna say because I kind of got a little excited, but I was gonna say, he doesn't seem to be mincing his words. What he says that the fight's gonna happen, as far as his side's concerned, the kid looks confident, like he wants it. Like he's not just gonna say I want it, then later I'm gonna bitch out. No, he sounds like he really wants it. Now, in regards to Tank, I'm not saying that he's a bitch or anything, but he sounds a little bit more wishy-washy, uncertain.
Well, in his actions when they met at the club, remember, I guess Garcia walked up to him. He said, so we're going to fight? We're going to do this? And I guess, like, he said he was with a bunch of his friends. Davis with a, crew, and he jumped up and grabbed him by his shirt and got him by his chain. He's like, we could do it right here. And he's like, why the fuck should we fight here? Like, I'm not going to get paid for that. Like, what the hell are you doing? Like, just goes to show you, like, yeah, Davis is from the street, and he has that mindset, And if and he's a talented kid and he can fight, I think he left Mayweather because I think he got tired of going down his route. No soft competition, in-house guys. I've said it all along. I believe that Davis wants to fight those guys. He's not afraid. But has he been fucking around too long? Has he been fighting soft competition too long in those prime years? Because he's closer to 30 than he is like 25. Those years that you would use to hone your skills, are gone. You don't get them back.
He's actually regressed as a fighter, and he might not see it that way. And maybe now that he actually kind of does, I guess, because he got rid of Mayweather. Now that trainer he got, he's taking a more active role, like in the press conference. Because before, Mayweather used to kick him out, hey, move out of my way. But the Calvin Ford guy, that's his actual trainer. That's important to build those bonds. Because what was Tank Davis throwing isolated punches, one punch at a time, robbing from his power by getting on the back foot and not actually stepping to, like when he's a short guy and like throwing punches and bunches, like Mike Tyson. You mentioned everybody saw that. When you're young, especially like you got that body type, it's better to take advantage of your youthfulness when you still got the quickness and that explosivity to put behind your shots. But when you're getting on the back foot and throwing one shot at a time, that's not a reflection that you're improving. Not because you suck, it's because you're doing things differently than the way that benefits you.
That's right, man. That's right. And listen, we'll see what happens with Tank Davis and Hector Garcia. That's a fight that could be problematic for Tank Davis if he overlooks Hector Garcia. Because Hector Garcia's got a good full tank of gas. He's very confident coming in with 2 good wins, 130 pounds, but still good wins. So you never know, man. Tank Davis is not a defensive wizard. He can make himself difficult to hit when he wants to, when he's darting around the ring. But he's not a defensive master. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. The other interesting thing is Ryan Garcia, they're saying that he's going to be taking on Mercito Gesta, Filipino southpaw, who just, I think he beat Joel Diaz Jr. in some obscure card that was on the internet a while back. But I think this is a good fight because to prepare himself for the Tank Davis fight, because some people are saying, yeah, well, why didn't he take on, for example, Camarón Cepeda, another southpaw? Because Camarón Cepeda is a different type of southpaw. Mercito Gesta is a mobile guy. And I think this indicates that Garcia's team knows how Tank Davis would fight him or try to fight him, which is moving around the ring. I don't think Tank Davis is going to try to walk Garcia down. And so a guy like Mercito Gesta, who is a middle of the ring type fighter, I think it's a good selection. Getting a southpaw in there who's quick, who still has something left. He's got some experience in there. He's been against some tough opposition. I think it's a good move for Ryan Garcia. I'm thinking, what other southpaw was he going to be able to face that was going to be as quick and dynamic? I'm scratching my head here, thinking. In fact, I'm going to look at the rankings. But what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, that's a cool choice. I never thought about that. I forgot. But I mean, which Filipino isn't like southpaw? Actually, let me go take a look at my son because he's half Filipino. He's picking up the toys with the left. I'm left. All these Filipinos over here are fucking southpaw, man. The guy's explosive. He doesn't necessarily hit that hard, but for a fight to prepare himself, yeah, I guess that's a pretty good fight. The dude got experience as well. Marcito Gesta's been around for a while. Yeah,
he's got to stay active, man. I don't know. Listen, I would have rather seen him fight a top opponent. One of the top 10 guys, rather, from Ring Magazine or ESPN. But again, I think this is a tactical move. They're trying to look at that, like I said, prepare for that type of style. And hopefully the fight happens, man. Because, listen, this fucking guy, man, Steve Kim, he made a good point, Steve Kim, when he said that. And it was very disillusioning when he said the future of boxing is grim because of the inactivity. Now all these guys are scrambling for TV dates, and you're only going to see guys fight twice a year. In fact, he said, when you used to look at guys in their 20s, like for example, in 1990s, right? They're in their 23, 24. They're fighting 4 times a year. Now they get rushed to a title shot when they have under 20 fights. And by the time they win a title shot, they go, oh, I'm elite. And now they're only fighting twice a year. That's going to create a myriad of problems in terms of development of fighters, skills, and that's going to compound into the quality of the fights. And it's also going to compound to the quality of fights, not because these guys aren't going to be developing as much because of the lack of fights, but at the same time, they're going to start being spoiled and going, well, this guy versus, I want to fight this guy, but he's got to make this fight happen first. He's got to beat this type of guy. And that guy's only fighting twice a year as well. So it's just going to create a big problem. And that's starting to disillusion me in terms of boxing, because it's starting to look like Steve Kim was right. It's going to turn that way. What do you guys think? Are we looking at a dystopia?
Yeah, we're going to look at a reset. Eventually, it's going to all crumble down, meaning like nobody's going to be willing to pay these guys anything near what they want.
Oh, boy.
And what happens? The next young group who are hungry, who haven't been paid shit yet, will be like, all right, I'll fight for 100,000. It's going to have to be a switch back to where it was, especially with the economy the way it is, bro. Not to go down that route, but the economy is horrible, brother. And I see it every time I go to the supermarket. Dude, I just paid $5 for a carton of eggs and $5 for a fucking quart of cream. $10. Dude, last year that was under $6. So it's just nuts. Everything's almost doubling at the supermarket. Oil around here, fill up your tank at your house. Insane, more than double than what it was last year. So
well, let me show
eventually it's catching up. Yeah.
Let me illustrate this, man. Top 10 pound for pound list from Ring Magazine. Artur Beterbiev, considered a monster, right? He's got 18 wins, 18 fights total. It's under 20 fights. Josh Taylor, a guy that's considered pound for pound. Yes, quality over quantity, but still under 20 fights. Same thing with Lomachenko. Dimitri Bivol, barely 20 fights in. He's got 21 fights. He knew it. 23. Usyk, he just barely broke now into the 20 fight range. He's got 20 wins total. And then that's without mentioning guys like Jerron Ennis, Teofimo Lopez, Shakur Stevenson. I mean, guys like Terence Crawford with 38 wins, Errol Spence, 28. I mean, even Errol Spence, you look at 28 fights. I mean, he turned pro in 2012, right? Or 2013, I believe. He's only got 28 fights. He's going to be a 20-year pro. This is insane, man. You know what? This is why I remember when I used to look at older people, like, for example, you, Jimmy, you said there was a time where you just stopped watching boxing for a while. I'm looking at that, I used to hear that and go, how, man? I'm like the younger enthusiast. No way, man. I'm never going to grow old. I'm never going to, grow tired of this sport. Shit, I think it's happening, man. I hate to say that because it's a show and I know people are tuning in to hear about the great sport of boxing, but we got to be realistic here. It is starting to look grim, man.
Yeah, and a lot of the people that if they hang around, not necessarily that it can happen. It can happen to anybody. If you start following the sport when you're not happy with it, and you're just following stupid narratives like drama, man, that shit can becomes begetting. You start turning like that too. So yeah. to participate in something that I'm gonna forget boxing instead of learning it, or actually not gonna be in a good place, that's not good, man. It's better to take some fucking breaks.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Listen, time is anybody's most important commodity. And you get to the point where you're not going to want to waste anything on a sport like that you love, and you're willing to give money to watch and all this. And when you realize, wow, this sport has no respect for me, has no respect for my opinion. And when you have these champions straight up saying, I don't give a fuck what the fans think. And you get this thing, you know what? You never would have heard Marvin Hagler say, yeah, I don't give a fuck what fans say. Yeah, I don't see anybody else. I don't see, them. None of them are ever going to go in the ring and, knock anybody out or win a championship. And, because he would be smart enough to realize, well, why would they? They don't box for a living. I chose to do this. When you hear somebody say, like, did somebody hold a gun to your head and make you become a boxer instead of an attorney? Instead of a fucking cop or something else, and shut the fuck up, dude. You chose to be in the sport. You chose to earn millions of dollars. I mean, for Tyson Fury to say that when he was angry, people, fans can suck his dick about the Chisora fight. Like, what a fucking clown comment that was. Like, you can't see how ridiculous that fight was, how much of it just an absolute cash grab. That's all it was. Like, Chisora had zero chance of beating you. And it was basically a sparring session that you just wanted to get paid millions of dollars to do. Absolutely. It's abuse. It's abusing the fans. They've been abusing us for so long. At some point, even the most simped boyfriend is going to have enough and walk away.
That's why, listen, and look, people that have the regular listeners, they know I always try to be upbeat, and I look at I'm a guy that's, what do you call it? A half glass full type of guy. I'm looking at the good things, and boxing does deliver good things. But maybe it's because I've been spending more time on Twitter. That fucking cesspool. But I'm starting to be very cynical about boxing right now. Now, we do have some good things down the line. And listen, that the people that are controlling boxing, they do listen to the YouTube boxing community. Don't get it twisted. The message, it gets across. Sometimes we got we got powerful allies that are actually getting that word across. But you gotta keep your knee on the back of their necks, man. Because like Jimmy said with the whole Tyson Fury thing, Tyson Fury is a guy that, I understand you got to do what you got to do, and at the end of the day, he has to make his own decisions and what's best for him. That being said, you can do that while also simultaneously trying to look out for the fans, because they are the ones that made you rich in the first place. Again, it's a niche sport, boxing. You need to get as much people, boxing fans, as on board with you as you can. You can't just dismiss them. That's why when I hear guys like that, like Crawford and Spence, like, man, y'all need to get a life, blah, blah. It's like, man, you're pissing off the guys that are getting you that lifestyle. There's not that many boxing fans out there. You ask most people in the street, show them a picture of Errol Spence, they're gonna go, "What is he, a rapper or something? What does he do?" You know what I mean? So they don't know who he is, but they seem to have this overinflated sense of, "Oh, when you're a big boxing star, and not you don't quite transcend boxing, but you're as big a boxing star within the community as you can get." A lot of these people, I think they seem to forget that they're big fish in a little pond. Yeah, they feel like kings here, like, "Oh man, all these people on Twitter, they're following me, blah, blah, blah." That's nothing compared to mainstream stars. So these people need to shut the fuck up. They need to start delivering the fights. "Oh, I'm the one taking the risk." Yeah, like Jimmy said, look at the economy. $5 for a carton of eggs. You think people aren't putting it on the line themselves, like paying money to watch you fight? It's a two-way line of communication. It's a two-way circle. It's back and forth. It's a symbiotic relationship, us with the boxers and vice versa. So they need to fucking shut up, make the fights happen, and stop trying to piss us off. Because if we really wanted to, man, who are we? In fact, you're seeing it with, look, Terence Crawford. "I'm going to do what I want to do, blah, blah." Okay, he's going to get paid. What's his reaction going to be, you think, when he realizes that the dismal numbers that his fight with Avanesyan is going to do? He's going to have to wake up too and say, "Fuck, man, I really do need that Spence fight. Can't spend the rest of my career fighting on BLK and fucking X-Hamster and Pornhub or Facebook Live." Fighters need to wake the fuck up, man. And maybe it's because I just got over the flu and I'm still a little bit angry that I caught it in the first place. I don't know. I'm a little bit on the edge today. Sorry, fellas.
Yeah. BDA, also something real quick. Like, for example, what was his name? Shakur Stevenson. He sent the offer to Camarón Cepeda. And this is a guy pretending that he's all about that smoke. Kind of also like along the same lines, like deceiving the public, but a little differently. He's sending out contracts saying, "Yeah, I want to fight you." But Camarón replied, I think in Spanish, and he said, "Well, you're offering me peanuts." So basically, you want to give the illusion that you're offering me the fight, but basically you're giving me nothing. So when people reject those offers, hey, what do you expect, man? You're offering the dude nothing. "Oh, no, but he's going to say, oh, he ducked me." I see a lot of that too nowadays. Not just with him, but fake offers.
Well, I'll tell you what also pisses me off here is, look, Tyson Fury, I understand he's getting a lot of flack, and I understand why, because that Chisora fight was completely unnecessary, and he didn't seem to make the utmost of effort to fight Anthony Joshua. You know, it's like he put a deadline and all that. That seemed to be more of an ego thing than actually wanting to make the fight happen or deliver it to the fans. But that being said, you got guys like, and we were talking about this on over at What Repeats last night. You got guys like Keyshawn Davis and who's he friends with? He's friends with Shakur Stevenson, I think, or something. Or I forget.
Crawford.
But he's friends with another black fighter, I think, who said, "No, we're never going to fight each other. We're brothers." Devin Haney and Shakur Stevenson now, they're barking at each other how they want to fight. Then they don't fight each other. Like Tank Davis didn't fight Devin Haney. That fight didn't happen. Spence Crawford isn't happening. So you got these American fighters, they're not fighting each other. No, they don't give him flack. That's okay. But Tyson Fury,
they're arguing about fucking winning sparring.
Exactly, yeah. But Tyson Fury, because 1 year. Yeah, they forget he beat Dylan White. Dylan White was a guy that a lot of people were saying, "Oh, give him his big mega fight again. Give him his shot at a mega fight. What can he do against Joshua in a rematch? Or give him that Fury fight. Okay, finally he gets it. Fucking Fury dominates him. People forget that. He deserved to be shit on for the Chisora fight, but I think it got the flag that he got to be a little bit too much. When if you're gonna give him flag, fine, but give flag to these other guys too. These American fighters that are always barking, "Yeah, we're gonna fight. They're not gonna fight." Like, listen, Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney. I'm not a waging man, but I'm willing to take bets here with people that fight doesn't happen. Haney's gonna move up, and Shakur Stevenson's probably gonna fight fucking Miguel Berchel or something. That's what Repet said too, and I completely agree. I think he's gonna fight Berchelt at some point, Shakur Stevenson, and they're gonna come out with a narrative. Well, it's because nobody wanted to fight him, blah blah blah. It's like, come on, man. You know, I tell you this. Yeah. Butcher used to be very harsh sometimes with fighters after fights. Like I remember we had this discussion when
Cepeda will probably fight him, but don't offer him $50,000 or $100,000. I mean, give him, if you're making $1 million, or for example, hey, pay him $500,000.
But
because if he loses, okay, he was a good fighter that pretty much he will never be seen as the better guy when he loses to you. So basically, yeah, he needs to make some money as well.
But don't go on these podcasts and on the Twitter and they're back and forth. We're gonna fight, and then they don't fight, and they don't get any flack for it. It's like, let's keep it consistent, man. Let's go. Okay, yeah, we go after Tyson Fury. Let's go after these fuckers as well. Because they're building it up as if they're going to fight, and then they don't fight. And they fight a bunch of has-beens. I mean, come on, man. We got a phone call here. Let's go to a phone call real quick. 205, you're on the air. 205, what's on your mind?
What's up, BDA? What's happening, family?
Oh, Uncle Charles, just what I needed, man. What's up, man?
Man, what's happening, man? Man, I can't call it, bro. I can't call it. Let me just say this, man. Listening to the show has brought me to a certain point of the day where we must talk about what makes a great fighter. Well, you got to understand what makes a great fighter. He has to be spiritually inclined, physically inclined, and mentally inclined. Oh, you didn't hear nothing about Marvin Hagler throwing him back in the club. You didn't hear about Deontay Wilder sniffing a plate of cocaine. You don't hear about that. Because one thing about Deontay Wilder, he will hit your ass in the head, and you'll want to become a priest. Yes, you'll be wanting to talk about save the world after getting hit by him. Let me tell you something, man. Let me tell y'all something, man. We have to understand that the fighters today are not like the fighters back then. The guys back then was warriors, man. These promoters, man. These promoters, they ain't no different than drug dealers. I can tell you, man. Drugs was bad back then when I was growing up. It was so damn bad. They had a drive-through drug house. All you gotta do is ride up to the one. Let me get 2 rocks and 1 stem. We've got a sale on an 8 ball. You can get a sale on an 8 ball. You can get that too. All that, man. It was bad back then, but it got better, man. After I started growing up. But to be a fighter, man, you have to be spiritually inclined. These guys out here, man, are not spiritually and physically inclined, man. Let me tell you something, man. Back then in the day, man, when I was little, and I think it's got a lot to do with the generations. That's what bring the fighters, the different generations. Because, see, when I was little, your ass couldn't sneak out the house at night. My dad said, y'all be here when I get off from work. If you snuck out the house, he will beat your brains out. You didn't know that about no sneaking out no damn house. Let me tell y'all something, man. Let me tell you something. My daddy, man, let me tell you something. He was lethal with that belt, man. He was lethal with that belt. Try to have your damn ass. Let me tell you something. Back then, all this stuff that's going on right now, oh, man, look at the luxury people got. Dove soap, Blossom, all these different kinds of soap. We ain't had that shit, man. We had Argus soap, big old brown piece of soap. And that damn thing was all purpose, too. You can wash the floor with it. You can cook with it. You can play football with it. But I tell you what you better did. You better wash it off for your ass use. I can tell you that. Because that ass will still be on that damn soap. I can tell you that right now. Let me tell you something, man. People have changed. And this show right here, man, I come on this show because this show not just talk about boxing. It also tell what's going on with the life of boxing. See, shows like this, if they're not on the air, then we don't know what's going on. And that's a thanks to you, BDA, and the panel. Well, let me say this in closing. Let me tell you something. I had some plants out on my porch, and people say, you must be crazy talking to some plants. Let me tell you something, man. The plants have life just like I do. And they understand every damn thing I'm saying. But people used to come up there and take my plants. Oh, man, I'd be crushed. And then I took out my daddy bear trap. And around about 9 o'clock that morning, I heard it go off. Pow! And I looked out there, and there wasn't nobody out there. But then I seen the drops of blood, and then the police came. Police said, did you get him? I said, no, I ain't get him, but I got something else. He said, what you got? I got his DNA. I said, what DNA? I said, you see that blood right there, the grass right there, and that skin on the end of that bear trap. And he said, well, you think he gonna come back? I said, let me ask you something. If your ass got caught in this bear trap, would you come back? Oh no. Well then, what the hell you asked me that question for? And that's all I got to say, man. I appreciate you, BDA. Hey, man, boxing is gonna be here to the end of time, and as long as we rocking and rolling with it, it's gonna get better. It will get better, and it should get better. Appreciate it, BDA.
That's a good point there, Uncle Charles. Thank you for your comment, and thank you for the kind comments, and always good to hear from you. Bringing in the energy, man. Bringing that energy right back up. Shout out to you, Uncle Charles.
Right. Uncle Charles always brings it. And to his point, like you look back at Marvin Hagler, look at his situation. 17-year-old kid just left Newark, said, fuck this. 1969, Newark, that's when it was just shit. Talk about a riot. The police were turning dogs on black people, and they were fucking having some crazy riots. And he's like, I'm going to die in this street because I got to get the fuck out of here. Took a chance, went up to Massachusetts, 17 years old, holes in his sneaker and $1 in his pocket. And he didn't tell anybody because he didn't trust anybody to let him know he had that $1. That was the famous story he used to always say. And then Petrus, the brothers met him, Goody and Pat, and they said, they could just tell. They just put gloves on him, and they, had him go hit the bag, and they knew right away he was hitting that. He was hitting that like he was punching Newark. Like they said, this kid's angry. But if they just needed to show with him, believe it or not, like they said, which shows you the psychology of it. We didn't have to teach Marvin to be aggressive. We had to kind of dial it back. We didn't have to teach him to be athletic and that will to win. That was there. We just had to show him that we weren't going to take advantage of him, that we cared about him. And like Marvin said, they took me out to lunch after. And they said, but before they went to lunch, he said, "Hey, if you want to work for us, we got a construction site. You can get on the crew and you can stay in the back of the gym." And he said it took about a week, but the first step was when they said, "Put your money away." And so Marvin's like, "Oh, thanks." And so Marvin said, "I expected they were going to take it out of my pay." And when you're working for whatever dollars, and you know how many exactly, when you're working like that, you know how many hours you had, you know what your pay is going to be. And when he opened up his check and he saw they didn't take the money out, and they took him out to lunch like 3 times. And that's when he realized, goes, oh, and so it meant so much to him that they showed him that kind of kindness. Like Goody knew that he had a chip the size of fucking, Montana on his shoulder. And he said, I just had to break through that. And once that was then, and that was, to this day, up until the day Marvin died, he couldn't speak about Goody or Pat. Well, Pat's the one who died. He was very close with Pat. Like, he wouldn't give public interviews. He would just say no. And it was reason being, he'd become too emotional, because he died in 2011. That's how close he was with Pat. And that's what all he needed. But it goes to show you just a difference. It's just a different mindset. And maybe kids get it too soft now.
Well, Uncle Charles did bring up a good point. He said, look, boxing it can get better. It's right now, I'm in a place right now where I'm extra critical or more critical than usual, which isn't a lot, but I usually am not this critical, but I am critical. But look, the criticism has to be constructive. In other words, the point of criticizing somebody is for them to get better. In this scenario, we're not just, or at least I'm speaking for myself here, I'm not complaining just for the sake of complaining. I'm complaining okay, let's change it. And because I do believe, like I said, I get the feeling that, people that do make a difference are actually listening and do listen to the YouTube boxing community, and then they take that and try to apply it in boxing. It's, we are the consumers. Just look at it from that point of view. It's very simple. And if you start demanding certain things, you're going to get them. Are you always going to get it? No, there's always going to be a resistance because some of the things we want actually is going to affect the bottom line for these guys financially. And they might not want to do it. They might be slow to do it, or they might want to compromise instead of actually giving you everything you want. But at the same time, what I'm saying is we have a level of agency that we can use. So, hey, complain, call it out, offer solutions. And like that's why I agree with Uncle Charles at the end, where he said, boxing is going to get better. But we have to do our part, and we cannot enable a lot of these fighters. Because right now, like this whole thing of them, hey, let me just go on the internet and bark back and forth with this fighter, and that's going to give these guys their little fix for drama, and they're going to forget, and they're going to give us leeway the next time we fight a bum, and we don't fight each other. Fuck that. Fight each other, and if you don't, we're going to put our fucking knees on the back of your necks. All right? Anyway, hey, I just realized, fellas, Nicholson, the guy that Andrade's going to fight, his claim to fame is that he's the first guy that went the distance with Berlanga. Remember that?
Yeah, I was going to mention that. Berlanga, yeah.
I wonder if they're going to mention that during the telecast. Yeah, but I wonder how many times they're going to mention that during the telecast. Guys, you have to remember, Nicholson went the distance with Edgar Berlanga. It's like, all right, first of all, that's nothing new now, because that Argentinian guy, Cazares, I forget, he went the distance with Berlanga as well. What's the guy's name? Mustang Sally? Or the guys with the car name who lost to Golovkin. He also went the distance with Berlanga. So that's nothing. So it's not like he's the first one, the only one to do it. Rather, he was the first one. So I don't know, man. It's that's the best guy that they could have found for Andrade. I don't know. What else was I gonna say? Well, you guys, got anything else to say before we move on?
Nope, that's pretty much it.
Actually, hold on. We got somebody in the line. Excuse me. Stay on the line there. Hold on a second. We got somebody calling in. 562, you're in the air. 562. Ooh, what's on your mind?
Hey, what's up, BDA? Just like the conversation. Lot to unpack here, but I think you're going somewhere with it. So keep your foot on the gas pedal.
That's right. Well, thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah.
You know what just to comment what got me thinking and why I made the calls, I think, all we want is competitive fights, because I think, 50-50 fights, that's what drives sports. Like the NFL, the betting drives the NFL. And what they've done is they've kind of diluted the product to have parity in the league. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I think
Absolutely.
we're getting mismatches. Like you look at this Tank pay-per-view card, it has names, but they're mismatches. What's going to drive the sport is 50-50 matches.
That is an excellent way of putting it, because, it's an excellent way of putting it, because look, that the Garcia fight, the Davis versus Hector Garcia fight, it's a good fight. But like you said, Tank Davis is a clear favorite. It's at best, you look at most people are looking at it and saying, okay, it's going to be competitive. But it's not you're not going in there biting your nails going, holy shit, who do I pick? That you're absolutely right. That's a good way of characterizing it. It's we want fights where we're going in there and we're thinking, holy shit, who's going to win this one? We don't get enough of those.
Yep.
Yeah.
Why do you think boxing was always best when the mafia ran it? Because they cared only about the gambling aspect, and what drove gambling, to the caller's point, tight, close fights. That drove up the gambling money.
Yeah, it's pretty simple logic to figure that what drives sports is gambling. So you need to put on 50-50 fights to have drive the gambling aspect up, because you're not going to get people interested with gross mismatches. Now I understand like the Haney, Shakur, Tank, or this whole round robin of fighters, but they're fighting mismatches. People are not going to be entertained by that. The reason we want to see them fight is because we know a Haney Shakur will be a 50-50 fight, but that's why they're not fighting. And when we call them out on it, that's what we're doing. People will call us haters, but we're saying, how is it we don't want to see 20-1 fights? That's why I don't condone this Crawford Avanesyan fight.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's like, look, good opponents or decent opponents can only take you so long. A sport cannot survive with a bunch of, well, this guy's a decent opponent type fights. Now it's got to be 50-50. 50-50, that's all we're asking for, and it's not that hard to make. That's why I like when, if indeed they make the Ryan Garcia versus Davis fight, because that's going to light a fire on all these other young fighters' asses. Say, wait, they're going to want a piece of that notoriety and that fame as well. So like you said, that's an excellent way of putting it, caller. 50-50 fights. Anything else you want to say?
Yeah, and just my last point. So like the Teofimo Sandor fight is, it's not necessarily a 50-50 fight, but it's an interesting fight, because what that'll do is drive a T.O. Regis or Taylor fight that'll incite gambling, because we're going to look at that as T.O. as a 2-1 dog, maybe 3-1 at very best. And those are the fights that we want.
Exactly, man. Absolutely. So, you're absolutely right.
That's what I think people miss that part. So, yeah, man, I think that's why we're just fed up with the sport. There's just not enough 50-50 fights. And it's not being hating. Last point, like with Shakur, he's calling all these names that we know will be maybe 3-1 fights, but he's going to end up fighting a 10-1 dog, and they're going to applaud it, just like what Boots is doing. And we know what's going on, but we get called haters. So that's why I follow you, BDA. But thank you for letting me speak.
Well, thank you, man. Thank you for calling in, and thank you for that. Yeah, you certainly put it in a fantastic way. They're 50-50 fights. So, man, thank you so much for your call, and call back next time, right, man?
Thank you.
All right, take it easy, man. Yeah, man. That's and look. You gotta have a good balance, right? Of criticism. You can't just be criticizing everything all the time. Like, oh, boxing's dead. It's like it's not dead. Let's be realistic. We've gotten a lot of good fights, but it could definitely be a whole lot better. And there's no shame in criticizing something, especially like you guys. Like, we'll criticize boxing, but you guys will do it. But at least you'll offer up a precedent of how it could be, of how boxing, that's something that boxing could return to, as opposed to just saying, this fight sucks. Okay, and then what? You're just complaining about the fight, so what? It leads to a point where a person eventually goes, okay, if you hate boxing that much, why don't you just stop fucking watching? That's why you got to offer up constructive criticism, back it up with evidence, and then offer your solution to it.
Well, Mr. BDA, it all goes back. It's a reflection of culture and time and society. When did boxing produce the greatest fighters? Coming out of the Great Depression. Poverty drives this sport. It always has. You're not going to get kids who go to, Harvard who can become professional fighters. You don't get kids going to prep schools, and it's always been a sport that's been driven, in the United States anyways, socioeconomic. And the same thing with the Eastern Bloc countries. Once the curtain fell, they were going through their, Americanization, and they were where we were in the 70s, and it was the first opportunity for these guys to make money because boxers before, under communism, weren't paid. So, yeah. So, I don't know, with the economy going shitty, that might drive kids back into the gym. Who knows? It's because it's easiest. Back in the day, it was always the easiest way for the poorest kid to become a millionaire.
But you know what? That's the interesting thing.
Fight.
But that's why I'm confused about how the UFC has been able to do it, because it's not just I used to think that, like what you said, Jimmy, about how, the poverty is, what they say, poverty is a great motivator, which it is. But it's also got to be combined with a good model. Like we've talked about it before, how the UFC, they go, okay, you're next for the title shot. And if the guy asks for too much money, go, okay, we got 5-7 other guys who were willing to step in at the last minute, who are just as good as you are, if not maybe better. And that's how they make it work. But the UFC, you get a lot of guys in there that grew up middle class. A lot of these wrestlers, these guys that were wrestling in high school, they weren't from the ghetto. It's usually white guys.
That's the key word, though, right there, Mr. BDA, right? They were wrestlers.
Right.
And they moved into it.
Yeah, and when I was in the military, a lot of them guys, especially the white kids, let's be honest, I'm saying, yeah, they were into that. It's just a part of growing up. People want to learn how to fight, but and they want to become good at it. But with boxing, I think it's something that you have to pick up preferably early on. Not saying that you can't do it. A lot of guys do it when they're 12, 13, 14, 15. But it's the thing with boxing, man, you really got to be good with the two hands, because facing guys at a world-class level, if you expect to make it, there's a lot of politics in between to actually get there. And, it doesn't feel good to get punched in the face. Honestly, man, I think it's different with boxing. This is my opinion. The other stuff, too. But with boxing, man, it is different.
Yeah, man, that's why, look, listen. When we criticize a guy like, for example, Demetrius Andrade, that's why I made the distinction. And look, he's not a bad fighter, but it's just that the outside the ring shenanigans have been fucking with him, and he's been fucking himself up. He's been fucking his own career up, is what I'm saying. And when you get to that level, it's very hard to get to his level. But now at the level he's at, where he's a top 10 guy in a division, now you start saying, okay, now let's compare him to, because again, there's levels in boxing. Now let's compare him to the cream of the crop, pound for pound wise, and he doesn't fit that bill. But if you do that, you're a hater. So you really have to add context to it and really build, offer it in building blocks or in point format to somebody to make them understand that, look, if you're gonna get to the level that Demetrius Andrade is at, it's very difficult. But then again, there's levels after that, and there's no shame. Or there's nothing wrong with saying that a guy isn't a top 10 pound for pound guy. That's even hard. That like you're talking now elite of the elite. So it's way too many people throw the hater label out there, and it's a shame. But listen, at the end of the day, we're offering our own opinion here. We can't clarify every single comment all the time. That being said, we do have to move on. We've been on for 2 hours. Unless anybody else has anything else to say before we move on.
Yeah, you think, BDA, that in UFC it's kind of easier to spar at times, no? Because you're wrestling in the ground. And then, then one day you're like, hey, buddy, let's go spar. No, fucking wrestling in the ground like a pair of, you know what I mean?
Right. There's different, it's a different type of exertion. When you're rolling.
And you have a lot of
when you're rolling, it's different than punching each other. And on the one hand, you're right, there's not that type of trauma from absorbing shots. But there's also, I've seen a lot of people that get injured with they tear their ACL and shit like that. And that comes from grappling. And it's a type of injury that you don't usually see in boxing. So there's pros and cons. But I agree though, yeah, it's easier to, hey, let's roll. You're not getting head trauma. Well, even with that's it. That's the thing most people don't know, which is that if you're wearing the headgear in boxing, gives you a false sense of safety. Your head is still getting rattled. And that's what causes damage, brain damage. Even if it's a slight rattling, but if it's constant, it's bad, man. So better just to avoid punches.
Another thing that I have to say, and in regards to that, is like in regards to boxing, something positive. A lot of the information is out there now. Like I remember in the '90s, I used to see boxers, and even I would go in there and spar, and it was like, "Hey, you guys punch each other, figure it out." And sometimes you get the drunk guy giving you instructions. Oh, just keep on punching. But now you have guys like Julio Cesar Chavez, Lomachenko, these styles that you can watch what they're doing and you can trust and believe that if you do what he's doing, if you follow that pattern, that's basically how boxing has evolved. And if you do what he does, hey man, you can be successful. Now you obviously have to be good at it, and you have to be faster than most and hit harder than most. But if you apply those training techniques, hey man, not everybody wants to get punched in the face, but if you're willing to learn, you can succeed.
Exactly.
And UFC that style too. They also have gyms that they have teams. Like those guys are like kind of on a team. They all like, you know what I'm saying? Like boxing is like that. It's so individual. Like they have the best gyms at the best teams in UFC. Like so, and it's more accepted because it's in a lot of gyms. A lot of gyms now have UFC training areas or MMA training areas. So
yeah, and Jimmy, that sport is also evolving. I'm not taking anything away from that because UFC is not the same UFC that was in the '90s. Even they're incorporated more different things. And now it's like the leg kicks, to where now if you do the leg kicks, you're successful.
In the '90s, dude, it was just organized. It was human cockfighting. Let's be honest. It's all that shit was in the '90s, right? There was no weight classes. Guys would fight multiple times in one night. It was just basically street fighting. That was some guys. They would say, "Well, what's your you a boxer, you a wrestler," and they would say street fighter. That was their discipline. They were a street fighter. Yeah. So yeah,
it was kind of cool, no. But now it's like shit's changed. Yeah, go ahead.
I remember the Tank Cabot that they would put his discipline as pit fighting. It's like, what the fuck? That's not a martial art that I've ever heard of. It's just pit fighting. It's just but a circle of guys and you're fighting for money. That's called bare knuckle fighting. That's not. But yeah, you're right, man. It used to be the good old days too. There was a certain charm to that where guys would walk in there with their fucking geese, and a guy would walk in there wearing like a kung fu pants, and you go, holy shit. That was real NHB, no holds barred. Now it's a different product. It's sanitized, and they had to sanitize it because otherwise it wasn't gonna go anywhere. But listen, it is what it is. MMA too. It's very expensive, man. I mean, like if I go to a gym here in Montreal, not even the best, just but mid-level MMA gym, I charge like $120 just to train just to freestyle it. Boxing gym, I'll pay $65, and you can just use all the equipment. But over there, you gotta kickboxing at Wednesdays, and then you get the Muay Thai class, and you get the Jiu-Jitsu class, and you get the wrestling. Holy shit, it's expensive, man. MMA is more expensive than boxing. So boxing does have that leg up there in terms of access. Anybody can really, anybody. It's easier for a guy, look at Venado Lopez. He's got his technique all over the place, but hey, all he needs is a punching bag, double end bag, some sparring. You can get very, very far. Whereas with MMA, the fuck are you going to do if you don't practice Jiu-Jitsu? You're going to be a sitting dog for any type of submission. So, yeah, it's a different level of access too, man. With that being said, fellas, we do have to go. A shout out to everybody that joined us. Jimmy, the Jim Marino, Gonzalez. Oh, Chief. Just see Chief there. Chief, are you there?
Jimmy, yeah. Joined in a little late. Just listening to you guys' conversation. Broken down everything very well. I'd say the one difference, real quick, before you sign off on MMA versus boxing, is that there's a lot of high school wrestling these days, and it goes into collegiate wrestling. If you have a really good ground game from having a background in wrestling, adding the other elements like how to ground and pound and things like that isn't quite as difficult as if you're a stand-up boxer and all you know is how to defend yourself while you're standing up. A lot of the guys in the when Dana White took over were excellent wrestlers in high school and college. So their ground game, even though they didn't know jiu-jitsu, they did know how to get out of moves, wrestle around, take people down, and keep from getting taken down. So if you have a solid wrestling game, and like I said, there's a lot of high schools that still do that. There's no high school boxing. There's a lot of college, you have collegiate wrestling. There's no college boxing. So that's my take on that.
That's true. That's another truth right there, man. Yeah. Boxing, listen, boxing is not for everybody, man. Like Gonzalez said, people don't like getting hit in the face, but
and wrestling is not that easy either.
Yeah, it's not, but at least you're not getting punched. I mean, I don't know why, but
you'll get punched. Yeah,
that's Exactly. But wrestling, we all we've heard the legends of how hard it is to get to become a top wrestler. I mean, it's fucking brutal. But at least, just look at Brock Lesnar, big ass dude. I doubt anybody ever tried to fuck with him when he was in college. But that was his weakness, because when he got to MMA, people now are punching him in the face, and you saw how he reacted. He would turn around like a newbie. Like a boxing newbie, like a guy that just stepped in the ring for the first time. It takes a certain wherewithal to. That's why when people go, well, nobody likes getting hit, we call bullshit on that, because you talk to enough professional not even professional boxers, talk to high-level amateur boxers, they'll tell you, the thrill of boxing is that shit, you're gonna get hit. So they do enjoy getting hit at a certain extent. It sounds crazy, but hey, that's why some people are in boxes, because they can't understand that, the thrill of getting punched. Anyway. We gotta go.
Yeah, I think, and I wouldn't say everybody, because some of the guys that get hit and don't get hit, get on the back foot, skills pay the bills. They're patterning their style based on what they're willing to do in training, and that's why they fight like that inside the ring when it comes time to put up. Mm-hmm. So, man, even those guys might say they want to get hit, but they're not discovering a lot about their chins, and they're not learning how to fight on the inside. A lot of these guys aren't. But yeah, some do. I'm not saying that everybody.
Hey, listen, guys, I got to go myself too. I got to go take care of something. So I'm going to say good night now. All you guys be good. All right.
All right. Take it easy, Jimmy.
Thanks for having me, Gonzalo. God bless. Yeah. Chief, God bless. All right, gentlemen.
Take care. Peace. Yeah. Take care, man. Take care, Jimmy.
I think Mark Zuckerberg is giving MMA a try now.
Really? I think he's practicing. I think he's rolling or not. Are you serious or what? I think that's what I heard, no?
Yeah, he's rolling around with Bill Gates, no?
Okay.
He's got a little bit of a...
Well, man. I think Elon Musk...
He might have a little bit of a fetish, no?
Nah, come on. Now, wait a minute. All right, listen, fellas, we got to go on that note. But shout out to you, fellas. Really appreciate you dropping by with the Jimmy Reno, Gonzalo, Chief. Everybody that called in, everybody that donated with the super chat, shout out to you, fellas. Thank you for your support. We will be back. I'm going to try to bring back Open Lines Friday, but I'm going to do a list of subjects that we can talk about, because, again, the last times, the reason we stopped doing it is because it was always becoming the same thing. There wasn't that much going on in boxing, and then we ended up just talking about Canelo, Benavidez, Lomachenko, Haney, and not even Fury Josh or anything like that. So I'm going to come up with a list of subjects or a list of questions and just let guys go back and forth. And really just also try to let two guys go at it. Because one of the big problems with the open lines was it becomes bloated. There's 10 people in there and they all want to talk at the same time. I don't see that in any other panel. Usually in other panels, organically it turns into a with this guy versus that guy type discussion, and that's how it rolls. But here it never materializes that way. It always stays in, hey, I want to say my piece. No, I want to say my piece. No, I want to say my, and just people talking over each other. So we'll try to work it out. I'm an optimist. I'm not gonna give up on Open Lines Friday. No, sorry, Bob. So shout out to everybody out there. We will be back. Somebody asked in this chat too about Second Renaissance. I'm working on it, man, because it does take time to come up with an episode. I got to do research on what's going on. What can we talk about? And I also want to do shorter videos for Second Renaissance. That takes time on top of everything else I got going on. So shout out to you fellas. We will be back. We'll always keep you entertained. Don't worry about it. With that being said, we do got to go. So guys, thanks for joining us. If we don't talk until Saturday, enjoy the fights. There's a lot to get to. There's a little bit of everything for everybody. So stay tuned for that one. All right, fellas? With that being said, don't forget to check us out on Spotify, iTunes, Spreaker. Hit the like on the way out. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. And that's about it. Take it easy, fellas.